Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and I am joined here by three fine friends. Let's introduce ourselves in order of joining the call. Fire away.
Hi, I'm Mary May.
Pleasure.
Hi, I'm Yiyi.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
And we're going to be doing a little Enclave mission for y'all today, including character creation. We've come to the session with classes in mind, so we're going to knock that out real quick, and then we're going to dive straight into an actual play. Let's begin. I'd say let's begin with all listing out what class we're going to play. Same order, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing Illusionist.
Very good.
I'm going to be Thunderbird.
There you go.
And I'll be playing a Thane.
Fantastic. A great group. That's a combat group if I've ever smelled one. And the first thing that we're going to be doing is, now that you have your class, you're going to want to note down the three abilities that your class has. So for the Illusionist, I mean, it lists it on the document just to make it blindingly obvious. For the Illusionist, it's going to be Phantasm, Veneer, and Viewpoint. For the Thunderbird, it is going to be Storm Brewing, Thunderclap, and Out of the Blue. And for the Thane, it's going to be Two Arms, Shield Wall, and Garathinks. Now, the first step we're going to do with this is we're going to generate your character's personality. On page 11 of the near final draft of the rule set I sent you over, you'll see that there's like a little table at the bottom that says personality traits. Each class is correlated to two stats, which is listed right under the class's name. For the Illusionist, it's Sensory Arcane. Thunderbird, it's Arcane Vigor. And for the Thane, it's Resilience and Spirit. And so two of your three personality traits are generated by those stat affiliations. So for the Illusionist, for example, you would have Alert and Ambitious, namely the Sensory and Arcane trait, and then you get to pick the third. So now that you have that context, feel free to take what time you want to pick your third personality trait, fire off any questions you have, and once you have it ready, you can fire it away.
Are there any that are incompatible with each other?
No.
That I should know about?
I think I'm torn between two.
Yeah, what are the
It
two?
could be Intelligence or Luck. I don't know which one to go with.
Both very fun. Both great play styles. I'd say it comes down to how you want to, how do I put this? How you want to interface with the plot of the mission. Luck is a lot more impromptu, spur of the moment, and your character themselves has less control, but you, the player, have a lot of control. Whereas Intelligence, I think you could say, is a bit more rooted in the character, though you as the player are still the one who's making it happen, you know?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know. Here, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, Kylie, fire away.
So the three adjectives that come after the first one, those are basically examples of how you could approach the trait, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
And so one person's indulgent is going to look very different from another person's indulgent.
Yes. Probably no surprise to Robbie. I think I'm going to go with Might for my third.
It's interesting that intelligence is associated with opinionated.
Yeah, the traits are trying to go off of archetypes, you know. And in storytelling, you'll often see characters portrayed as intelligent, also being portrayed as having very strong opinions about things.
Got it.
Even if they keep them to themselves.
Resilience for my.
Excellent.
Oh, you're good. I think I'm gonna swing towards the Luck. I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
Fantastic. Now that we have those, we're going to dive into the stats. So in Enclave, stats are scaled using pluses. And the basic idea is that every plus you put in a stat is a pretty substantial jump in how powerful that stat is. And a baseline stat with no pluses in it, very serviceable. Even if you have no pluses to luck, you can still make use of luck's mechanics. Because of that, here's how we're going to do our stats. First of all, remember the stat affiliations that your class has. For each uptick, you're going to put 1 plus next to that stat. So for example, for the Illusionist, you get 2 pluses to Sensory, 1 to Arcane. For the Thunderbird, 2 to Arcane, 1 to Vigor, etc. Once you have those down, you're going to get a 4th plus that's going to be in whatever stat your personality trait pick is affiliated with. And then the final 2 pluses, for 6 total, you may distribute however you wish across all the stats, but no stat may be brought above 3. And 3 pluses in a stat is substantial. Like that, a stat with, for example, 3 pluses in might, that will make you as strong as pretty much any person in our real world can possibly be, and maybe even a little beyond. So it's nice and
How many
oomphy.
pluses do we get?
So you have, it's going to be 6 total. You have 3 from your class, 1 from your picked personality trait, and then 2 more you can put anywhere.
Including any of the ones that we didn't pick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great for me, so I'll put 1 in intelligence.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
I think I'm going to put 1 in each of my spirit and might and end up entirely the bottom left side of the
Perfect.
traits.
I'm putting my remaining 2 also in resilience.
The triple vigor Thunderbird, or triple resilience Thunderbird, that's so
Thanks.
sick. That's so sick. I love that. All right, nice. Next step is gear. So your class has 2 sections for gear. One is default. It's 3 pieces you automatically have. You can put those down. And then you have an elective roster. You pick 1 piece of gear from that elective roster. Now I should note that class gear is quite powerful. Like, it's supernaturally elevated above what a mundane version of that item would be. And so take a look through, see what one seems most fun. Oftentimes the name conveys a lot of what it does. And if none of them are jumping out to you, there is another option we have where you can forego your elective pick to instead take 2 common items. And a common item can be anything you want, as long as it is 1, entirely mundane, so no cool magical properties, and 2, thematically appropriate for your class. So no submachine gun for the faint, unfortunately.
Well, I think I want a horse.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the horse.
I had a feeling.
Listen, give me the option for the animal. I'm taking the animal.
Yeah.
What is a paired action?
A paired action is one of the key ways that you activate your abilities. Each ability has, in like the top part of its box, a paired action listed, which demonstrates what in-game your character is doing to initiate the magic. Some gear also has paired actions associated, and it just means what your character needs to do to kick off the spell. Paired actions are also very important because by adapting your paired action, you can flexibly change up the magic that you're trying to use to better fit the situation through a mechanic called energy work.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I want to go for the hand mirror or just like a screwdriver.
Screwdriver seems really useful.
If you
I
do,
think it could end up coming in handy.
yeah, if you do common items, you can take 2, and so you could get it
Screwdriver
and something. Hell,
Where
I
do
would
I find
like
common items?
common items. You can make them up. There is no list of them. You get full choice. In fact, the screwdriver and hammer is so simple, I would probably just let you take a toolbox and be done with it. Though, of course, at the same time, that is bulkier. So if you just want to have the 2, it might be easier.
But it would dangle around a bit if we were trying to sneak.
Yeah, exactly.
It could get a bit tricky.
Well, I think I might jangle around a bit if we're trying to sneak as a group.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So if we don't pick common items, we don't have like standard adventuring gear like rope.
That is one final piece to it that typically when you go onto a mission, we will stop by a store first. Okay. But for these purposes, what we would do is once you were in mission, we would be able to retroactively put in things that would make sense for you to have. For example, local currency. That's the sort of thing that you can say, I would probably have that, wouldn't I? And I'll probably say, yeah. If you want to take it a step further, you could try to use a luck pitch to go for something a little more on the weird side. But especially if you have a few pluses in the stat.
I see. Okay.
I think I'm going to go with hand mirror, and I put 2 pluses in luck, so I'll just hope that I have a loose screwdriver in my pocket.
Excellent. Yeah, the hand mirror is quite a cool and powerful item. Communication is really valuable. Obviously, with people who have never played the system before, I'm like less strict about it. But for people who have played it a few times, I'm very strict with knowing what your character knows, as opposed to being able to just talk out of character to discuss strategy. That's one of those times that the hand mirror is amazing.
We're gonna get in trouble if we talk too loud. Our NPC's gonna overhear us. That'd be tricky. I talk loud a lot.
Same.
Okay, I'm gonna just do lightning bolts. That seems pretty typical for my character to have.
Oh yeah, the lightning bolts are very fun. Great high damage ranged weapon. They have the risk of friendly fire, but if you're careful with them, they're going to be a lot of upside. Okay, and then your next step, we are nearing the end, and this part you can get pretty in depth on, but we're not gonna go too nuts here. It's fine if you don't give me a ton. We want to do names for your character and some detailing of their appearance and background. Now, again, you could just have a sentence and leave it at that. And if things come up on mission, and you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, you can actually define things mid-mission as long as we record them and stay consistent once we define them, if that makes sense. Appearance and background tend to matter a lot more in Enclave than they do in other games. But that doesn't mean, again, that you have to have a huge thing ready to go. As long as what you're saying on the spot is like makes sense and is congruent with what you're going with and wouldn't lead to like a very convenient, like overly convenient thing happening, minus a high luck stat, then it is very reasonable to do on the spot. Now, I should also note, Enclave characters are not limited in any way in what kind of background they can be from. You can be from any time frame, any theme, any setting. Go wild. Or keep it simple. All work.
Know who's gonna go first?
That's the thing. Alright. I think I've been thinking about it a bit, so I have some stuff I can go off of.
Yeah, please.
Well, I like to play male characters, so unless that's an issue, I'll be probably doing the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
I think gonna go with. Alright. Got a name saved. Should I post it here for convenience and memory, or just.
Yeah, sure.
Alright. I'm gonna go with Maladrove. Let's go sort of very much stocky, would be a wall figure if he were a little bit taller, but he's like 5'6", hence definitely the horse for that part.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in like the late 20s, early 30s range. Very black hair, sort of tight beard. Keeps it pretty short. Skin tone on the vaguely pasty-ish gray kind of thing. I'm imagining more of like a
Slav?
Sunken City sort of vibe.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
a place that's got a lot of water and is very dark, and you'll have this person sort of going around on... There's these kinds of French horses that are really good at water.
Yeah.
I think a Camargue. I can't pronounce it right. If there's anyone French watching, I'm sorry. But a horse that likes water, sort of marching around with the city guard fighting off like mermaids and leviathans and stuff.
That's so sick. I mean, I'm not surprised it's you, but like still, that's sick.
Well, thanks.
Awesome. Does anyone else have an idea?
I definitely do.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw one of the examples for illusionists in media was the wizard from The Wizard of Oz, and I've been rereading that entire book series. So I definitely am completely ripping it from that. But yeah, I'm going to play a female character. I haven't quite come up with a name yet. Right now I'm just thinking Siri because it's easy. But essentially, she's like 5'5", long blonde hair, very like typically pretty, and was a con artist for a very long time. And through that con artist, stumbled into becoming the ruler of a kingdom, because the kingdom's name was derivative of her name. It was like Syracuse. I think that's a college name. And her name was Siri, so they just went, oh yeah, you must be the leader. And she ruled for a while until they realized she shouldn't. She got kicked out, and since then has been trying to actually become the ruler that she probably should have been originally, which is why she's been focusing on this magic and learning it, but of course still has that kind of trickster background.
I love it. That's so good. If you wouldn't mind putting the name down in chat so we can consult it on the spot. All right, Yiyi, do you have something or do you need a little more time?
Yeah. So my name is Buzz. I
Mm-hmm.
also usually play male characters. Largely, Buzz is based on the character of Static Shock,
Oh, I
because
love Static Shock so
lightning.
much.
I am Black. I come from a relatively poor background. I never quite fit in with my peers because I was a little too abrasive, and outspoken about the things I believed in, and therefore that's why I'm out and about trying to make my fortune in the world, because I haven't really found my place yet.
Absolutely. Does this mean that you are from a more modern world, like a more modern background?
No, no.
Awesome.
Just, I have peers in the village, or I actually don't know like what the world setting is like. But
That's perfectly, like I said, it can
yeah.
be any background, any setting that you want.
It's a big world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's like the metropolitan-ish area of the time, whatever the time the setting happens to be in.
Again, you get to choose the time because in the world of Enclave, it is a literally infinite world, and any
Oh,
given
boy.
pocket can be completely different from another pocket. So you have complete creative control over the area your character comes from.
I would say it's like Tokyo in the 70s.
Sick. Okay. Yeah, that gives me a lot to work with.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And if you wouldn't mind putting your character's name down in chat, that would be great. We have our characters together. This is a great group. I really have a lot to work with here, which is fantastic. Next thing we're going to do is you guys are going to give me focus words. Now, this can be any word or short phrase, anything at all. I'm going to be using it as inspiration to generate a mission for you on the spot. While I am generating, I'm going to ask that you take the time to talk amongst each other, discuss strategy, go over things about how your classes work, any questions you might have. It's your time to be entirely out of character, kind of figuring out how you're going to interface with each other, and gives me some time to think. So for focus words, I'm going to ask for one apiece. And again, they can be any word or short phrase whatsoever. That's not going to get me banned off YouTube.
I'll say futuristic.
Awesome.
I will say down the drain.
That's awesome.
I'm going to go with Holy Venom.
Holy Venom.
Whoa, boy.
Wow, do you guys want me to have a good time? All right.
No.
No, we want us to have a good time.
All right, I am going to go generate. I'm going to be kind of bopping back and forth for a moment, and I'm going to be largely off camera. I apologize if anything screws up, like technologically wise, while I'm gone. And I'm going to try to like linger close enough that if anyone has a question, I appear like pacing around or whatever, just wave me down and I'll come over. All right?
Got it.
I'll be no more than like 5 minutes.
Oh, all right. So,
I'm glad you have played this before. Because I'm not exactly sure how this part goes. Usually a GM doesn't leave.
right? Well, the version I've played is definitely more of the beta to this. There's some differences, but basically we talk about just, well, we already know the general aesthetics of each other's characters, but the kind of play style you might anticipate for them. For example, Thane is good at setting people up and spooking people off, and generally more of engaging with a battlefield than directly fighting people.
What do you mean by setting people up?
I can literally give people equipment. That's one of the abilities he has.
Okay.
But also just
master kind of thing.
yeah, or just sort of leveraging visual authority on NPCs and getting them to join us, that kind of stuff. As opposed to, I imagine Buzz is probably going to be pretty handy in a one-on-one fight.
Yeah, let's hope.
All things considered.
It
And
definitely seems like I'm out of combat more often, or Illusionist is.
I think Siri seems like she's good at getting people to do things, in particular with that background, or just even misdirecting people if a fight comes up, for example. She's got a lot of tools to just make them not notice something's happening or think something else is. It's always a little hard with the first time playing a character, because you're like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet.
Got it. I feel like I tend to be pretty insistent and outspoken, and but sometimes inappropriately so. So that might get myself or everyone else in trouble.
I feel like there's probably a good combination of getting in trouble versus getting out of trouble.
Yeah. You gotta
Like,
have a
all of
little
us
bit
are
of
kind
both.
of good at both. Yeah.
You gotta push some buttons, otherwise the stuff's not happening.
Yeah, nothing will happen if you don't give it a shot. Yeah, I have no idea. So if we get into an actual combat encounter,
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do.
Well, if we let anything get close to you, that's probably our fault. So that's a good one is probably to come in close to, I can set up shield walls and stuff, so I should try to make sure to cover you.
Yeah. Do you have a way to like shroud yourself in I
I
don't know,
think
Yeah, you can-
foliage? Just
You can make
random
it look
bush
like-
appears.
Yeah, I think that was something that I didn't run by Robbie, but there's something that allows me to make it can't make sounds or anything, but like a visual 3D image, and I wonder if you could put that around a person, of like
That's-
put a tree around a person.
That's Phantasm, right?
Yeah.
I am sure you can manage that. You like, especially because you can move it around, so you can like have it shuffle slightly.
Like a ghillie suit or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also make yourself look different, or other things look different, but. So that's a good one.
I'm just imagining that scene in Lord of the Rings where I think Frodo and Sam had that
The
cloak
rock?
that they threw over themselves and suddenly they were
Yes.
a rock. Yeah. That.
I think that might have been one of the items that I didn't go with. There was a billowing cape that cover and take focus out of the person.
Oh yeah, and like. Oh no, it lets you hover,
Oh, what?
apparently. Yeah, the billowing cape lets you hover around.
Oh.
So you can
that
like
makes a lot
float.
of sense.
That's pretty cool.
I want a
Wait, I
cape
have a
that lets me
feathered
fly.
cloak. What does that do? I didn't actually
can
read my
read mine.
mandatory items.
Yeah, so we've all got some equipment. You have a
Yeah.
wizard hat. I love that.
I do. So here's the thing. I do actually have a pink wizard hat and folding fan that I
Amazing.
meant to bring down here before we started, but like it's a bit too late. But I do
You
think
could
it would
move
be
really
fun.
quickly before Robbie's
I
back. Oh no.
ran.
Oh no, he's returned.
Too late. It's all good.
I'm nearly good. I need like less than a minute and I'm ready to
Okay,
go.
cool.
All set.
Sorry.
I guess
Probably
final
a cat.
question is, if we're like all going on this mission together, do we know each other prior to this?
Yes. Well,
I mean,
we're
we
going
said
to
our
be.
backstories out loud, so.
Of course. What we're going to be doing is all of your characters are mercenaries in the Enclave, which is, in this infinite world that I described, there's one thing that is omnipresent no matter where you are in the world, and that is the Enclave. It is subtly there. It has roots and tendrils and influence in every corner of the infinite world. And because of that, it can hire from all backgrounds. And it only takes people who it thinks has promise. And so you, three strangers from completely wildly different backgrounds, are being brought together. You're going to convene at Enclave headquarters. You'll have a moment to discuss with each other in character after I give you your mission statement. This is called Assembly. And then after that, you are going to be teleported from Enclave HQ directly into the mission. Accomplish it as best you can. And once you've accomplished it or failed, you each will have an Enclave badge. That once it's finished, it will ping. And you tap it and you teleport off the mission. If you're incapacitated but you're alive, a teammate can ping you off.
Oh, nice.
That's cool. How often do people die on these missions?
No, we've had some deaths. I wouldn't say it's common. I wouldn't say it's like abundantly common.
Okay.
And there are many things you can do to save a teammate. One of the best things you can do is that if someone is brutally down, protect them and bail the mission.
Send them home.
Yeah.
Get them out of there.
Get them out of there. But if you make the character call that your character would prioritize the mission over them, do it. Like, commitment to the character is very highly valued and prioritized in Enclave.
Is
Okay.
there like, does Enclave provide any kind of like life insurance policy if I were to die? Are my loved ones taken care of?
So we've actually discussed this. I don't address it in this version, but in the full legacy version of the game that Kylie's been a part of for a long time, we've actually like talked about this at a few points. My inclination would be absolutely, and especially if you're an Enclave agent of some experience. Like, if you're an asset to the organization, they'd set your family for life, like, without question. Since for your characters, it will be their first mission. Even for a first mission, you'd get a good payout. The Enclave is meant to be unbelievably powerful, but does value PR quite highly.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, if you are ready for it, I have a mission statement for you. I'm going to give you a summary, and then you can ask me any and all questions you might have. This mission statement and all questions asked will be known to all of your characters in full. And there are going to be some elements of this mission that are going to be very foreign and weird to your characters. A lot of that you'll have to deal with in mission, but if, for example, a mission has a television on it as like a central plot point, all characters will be briefed on what the hell a television is before you go there. Does that make sense? Yeah.
We're asking you questions about the statement that you're about to say. Is that in character or out of character?
Both. If you have a question that you're like, I mean, I don't care about this, but my character would, totally fine. Go for it.
But who are you?
Me? I'm the narrator.
No, like, who are we asking the question?
I see. You're going to be asking it literally
officer?
to the Enclave as an entity. Your character will be sent this mission briefing, and they would almost like, you might talk into your badge, you might write a written response, you might speak with an attendant. The Enclave has many ways of getting information to and from you. And so if you wanted to say, like, in your world, like, I'd call them on my phone, and I would like talk to them about it, then that's totally fine. If another person wants to say, I send them a homing pigeon, works for me.
Right. Okay.
All right, we good for mission statement? All right, I will put a few names in chat. You are going to be sent to the great city of Ishayed. It is also known to visitors and travelers as Downpour's Heart. Now, Ishayed is well known, above all else, for never not raining. The city is perpetually immersed in thick rain and it has been this way for well over 100 years. The city is very advanced and has developed we're going to call it a hydropunk aesthetic, where everything in the city is powered exclusively through hydroelectricity mixed with a little bit of magic. They have infinite energy, infinite resources, all because of the rain. That might be changing now. Reason being is Ishayed also has a very powerful religious structure. And the current ruler of this religious structure, we'll refer to him as a high priest, but he has a more sophisticated title. His name is Soldun. Has a monthly, roughly, obligation to perform a religious ceremony that is thought to, in some way, keep the rain going. Many of the citizens don't necessarily believe this. It's a rather secular area, but, tradition is tradition. This time, however, the Enclave has it on very good account that this tradition is being tampered with. Soldun himself, it is not clear whether he knows what is going on. It is not clear whether his worshippers or his followers know what is going on. But the Enclave has it on very good account that if he completes the ritual, Ishayed loses its reign, and the whole city will fall apart within days. Your goal is to stop the ritual by hook or by crook. Questions?
Is it cheating to take notes?
No. I
Notes are
encourage it.
good. Notes are very good.
Okay. Does Sultan have any enemies that we know of?
The Enclave says that he has been a largely unpopular leader. Many folk within the city have considered him to be a little bit too traditionalist, rather than like lightening up on a lot of the obligations and structures that are imposed upon the citizenry. Like I said, it's a very secular populace, and they're kind of getting sick of the traditions surrounding the religious structure in the city. And he is quite fundamentalist in his approach to it. He probably has quite a few enemies, but none of them seem to be high profile, at least none of the ones that are speaking out.
So there's no particular group that seems to be against him or his cause or his
None that the Enclave has
methodology.
yet identified. At least not a centralized one.
Other than the... You go.
I was just going to say, do we know what the ritual normally consists of?
Yes, it's not a long one. It typically consists of about an hour-long tradition where he, surrounded by a large number of his inner circle, congregate at the centermost fountain of the city. It's like a big cistern that has like staircase fountains leading down. You're going to be teleporting in pretty much there. And at this great cistern, it is a combination of prayer, religious dance, and it culminates in a great display of magic. Soldan himself is a rather magically gifted individual. The magic that he uses is largely based around water manipulation, but he also has some that is slightly more visceral. He can, for example, lay on hands to heal the sick.
Oh,
Other questions? Mary May, if you have one, fire away.
Oh gosh, what was it? So are there any other? So there's a head of the religious, group in this city. Is there any other heads of state or things like that also deal with the higher up?
Yes.
Not phrasing that correctly.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's perfectly fine. The city does have quite an extensive governmental structure, and there will be some governmental leaders here. It is primarily handled through a large parliament that has like 500 members. So it's a very diffused government. He is honestly probably the most powerful person in the city by quite a lot because there's only one head of the church, and there are many, many, many heads of the state. Other questions?
You said he and his followers congregate for this ritual. How many followers? Is it like dozens? Is it 2?
Yeah, excellent question. So there are many citizens who just kind of like watch because it's cool and magic is fun, right? But the people who are loyal to him, and there are fewer and fewer, but he will have at the very least a number of other magically able priests, less powerful than he by a lot, but there to assist in his process, and probably in the order of at least 50 or so non-magical but very loyal zealots. There are some people who still adhere to the old ways to the T and are ready to die for him, without question.
Yikes.
Other questions?
Where does he live?
That's a great question. So he would live in not a religious building, but rather he would live in one of the most prestigious high-rise sections of the city. The city it's kind of structured like a wedding cake. That's the analogy I'm going to use. Where you have a lot of like very high-profile buildings at the very top, and then the whole city kind of like builds down with a lot of internal guts and structure where people live and a lot of business is done. But a lot of the most important people live at the top and on the outside rather than crammed in on the inside.
Well, that makes sense if it's always wet. You kind of don't want to
Exactly.
be at the bottom dripping.
That's what we call mildew right there.
Ugh. Is it known where he lives? Like if we were to
Yes,
go
very,
along?
very
Okay,
public.
okay.
And also it would be quite close to the location of this central ritual. Mm-hmm. And to clarify, you're going to be teleporting in there as the ritual is taking place. Like it is happening.
Underway.
Okay.
Other questions?
Where are we porting in relative to the ritual?
Absolutely. So like I said, it takes place in this grand fountain at the center. It's perfectly symmetrical. There are like many walkways leading out to it, but this fountain is placed over like a huge pool, like a major cistern for the city. And so it has about 8 bridges that lead across on cardinal compass style points from various points. You're going to be teleporting in at the southernmost bridgehead.
All right.
Wait. Okay. So, so this fountain actually pours into the cistern, which is the water supply for the whole city. So whatever he's doing to the fountain, like permeates through the whole city. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Oy.
That's how you bless the city with magic, or make a lot of problems.
Trickle down economics.
That's the name of the mission.
Okay. It's gotta be trickle down economics.
Oh, even better.
That's very good. Okay, I have an immediate base idea and then no idea how to go after that.
That's perfectly fine. Does anyone else have any other questions, or are we good to move to assembly?
What's the general width of the bridges? Are they like massive, or are they
Great
each
question.
small?
They are each quite small, specifically designed such that people cannot cross them more than about 4 abreast.
Got it. No.
That's very relevant now that you mention it. So now that we have all this in mind, we're going to move to assembly. Your characters, you can assume that they have made their ways to Enclave HQ from whatever their homelands are, and they've all been congregated in a very well maintained but gray and plain, though plush, meeting room. You have never met each other before, but you have been briefed in your mission statement that these are your companions. You have a vague idea of each other's capacities. And we're not going to spend too long on this, but as of this point, feel free to drop into character, though you can always, out of character, ask me questions or check in with each other at any time. Fire away.
Right. So,
Well, this sounds messy.
Well, it certainly doesn't sound clean despite all the water.
I like water. I use electricity.
Ow! Oh, surely it's gonna be easy then. We just zap everybody in the water.
Just
And
be
everyone
careful
who
with
touches
it.
the water is dead.
Yeah. I've gotten in trouble with that before.
You sound like it'd be a problem back home. But a good one here. At least you're on our side.
For now.
Let's keep it that way. We don't want to go electrocuting the populace.
Yeah, I'm here to make a name for myself, and I think I've already burned enough bridges. I'm gonna keep it on the straight and narrow this time.
Let's hope you don't burn the very titular bridges in this one, huh?
Let's see that you do. Not the burning, the straight and narrow.
Burning the bridges actually could be helpful. Maybe.
Not quite possible in a city as wet as this one.
Oh, that is true. Sort of prevent fire. Sort of half of my plans.
Some things can burn in the rain, if you have the right oil.
This is true.
Maybe a supply run is in order.
They said this is hydroelectric, right? Does that mean it's already electrocuted?
I believe it's some sort of electric magic of sorts, is it not?
I don't know much about magic.
I don't know much
Either
about
do I.
Of this
city
kind.
planning.
illusionist says.
I do a little wink. I'm trying to make sure you guys don't know how powerful I am.
Yeah.
Well, I'm down to go get magic oil and, burnable fire.
If we're just planning to go in and start smashing the place, I think we have options for that. But we also don't know what's actually making this go poorly. We can find out what that is and remove it.
Let me tell you what my plan was, because I think it could go well with yours. If I create an illusion that the ritual has already happened, we could go in and figure out exactly what the problem would have been if it were to have happened. But hopefully it wouldn't.
He's probably familiar enough with it that he'd see that coming, but you could probably replace parts of it, right? If we clear them out.
Perhaps.
Do we know what the ritual looks like once it's been successful?
As you ask this question, you hear a smooth click, and in your assembly room, a slideshow projector starts to play a perfect quality image of what the ritual looks like when it culminates. You can see that you actually also get a good look at Saldum at this moment. elegant and elaborate does not even begin to summarize this man's outfit. He is wearing gentle lilac purple robe suit Met Gala ball gowns nonsense. It's wild. Absolutely resplendent. And most notable about him is that even though he does not look like an old man, his face is unbelievably wrinkly. Like 105 years old wrinkly. And you can see that in these final moments that are playing before you, he turns around, he raises his hands, and you can see that from his hands there trickles like a thin mist that whirls and patterns its way all the way up the entirety of the fountain, creating the illusion of almost like a climbing vine or kudzu or ivy or something, culminating in a geyser of water emitting from the fountain's top.
Wow. So, Siri, is that something you think you could replicate?
Well, potentially. Have to see if the wind is on my side. I assume they have wind.
Well, we have
certainly
ways
the
to
priest-
we have ways to clear out some of the people. I don't know how quietly we can do it, but you could probably help with that. Or I'm sure I could convince a few of them to back away. You're loud, right? This
I'm
is
pretty
typical
convincing,
Buzz.
especially convincing of people trying to get away from me.
Perfect. And I think we can manage that together.
Looking at the picture of Saldun.
I can see why he's not popular. Extremely punchable face. Who dresses like that?
Maybe he's just self-conscious. Perhaps if I made his face a little nicer looking, he'd be a bit nicer looking as well.
Certainly do the watchers a service.
I'm gonna do us a service too.
As the conversation comes to this point, an Enclave attendant, anonymous and impeccably dressed as always, enters the room and says, "Agents, are you prepared to disembark?"
Yes, I should think so.
As prepared as I usually am, and I heft my lightning bolts.
And they say,
Let me get my horse.
"Absolutely." The horse canters into the room, covered in barding.
Definitely takes a few, like gets out of her chair and takes a few steps back.
Yep.
This is Mouse. Say hello.
Does it talk?
Mouse glowers across the room.
Oh, certainly not. He's a horse.
I mean, horses could easily talk. I think Siri wants to kind of like eye up this horse and make sure it's not gonna like beat her up.
The horse looks like it would take you out behind the alley and beat you up, yeah.
So is Mouse coming with us then?
Of course.
Okay.
Mouse comes with me everywhere.
Mouse glowers across the room and gives another before
How does he do
falling to
with
step.
fire?
He's a trained warhorse. Don't set it on him, but he'll handle it better than a racing breed.
You are led through Enclave HQ, vast and maze-like, and brought to a simple room, dark, with rounded corners at its walls and ceilings. And there are a set of 4 glowing pads gently pulsing inside. You hear a disembodied voice say, "Agents, please take your places atop the teleportation pads."
Oh, this should be exciting.
Will the horse fit?
Mouse canters over to a pad that is long enough to accommodate him. And as you take your places, you hear, "Agents, prepare for teleportation." And you feel a tingling sensation in your toes that rises up through your legs, every piece of you feeling like it's falling asleep in the most pleasant way possible until it hits your eyes, at which point the world explodes into a litany of color and mesmeric ribbons until it's not, and everything is back to normal again. except for the pervasive smell of fresh fallen rain. You are standing on a adorned platform. In front of you is the bridge leading to the great fountain. Behind you and around you, you see well-dressed citizens in strange clothing, not hugely dissimilar from the one that you saw in the recording, but far less elaborate and in many different colors and many different styles. A few of them do kind of like step aside in some surprise as you seemingly appear out of nowhere, but it seems that most of them are more concentrated on the activities ahead of them. You can see magic wildly cast around the fountain. Beautiful firework-like twinings of water. Winding, changing color, bursting and erupting, even in some cases taking shapes like fish chasing each other up into the air. And all the while, rain falls. What would you all like to do? We're going to start with Buzz. Immediate actions, questions you have, things you want to look at, etc. And then we're going to jump to Siri and then Maladrev.
Well, as we were teleporting through the mesmeric colors, I was preparing my superhero pose so that I would enter with a certain amount of flair. Now that I have, you mentioned everything is very symmetrical. Do I see anything in the patterns that look not symmetrical or out of place?
Absolutely. So are you looking at the patterns in their waterworks or in the buildings around you or in the crowds? Where are you looking?
In the area centered around the fountain, I assume like the ritual
certainly.
patterns are having a pattern.
Yes, that's a great question. So you can see that it is largely symmetrical, but there are bits of asymmetricality thrown in there. Like, for example, the fish pattern that I just described, that is not replicated on the far side of the fountain as well. And from what you can see, even though obviously the fountain blocks out much of this, there are similarly patterns on the other side that are not replicated on this side to some degree as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you have any quick follow-up actions before I jump to Siri?
No.
Excellent. Siri, what would you like to do as you port in?
Definitely first thing she says is, "Oh, don't worry, we're just tourists." And then immediately look towards the center and try to clock where Salden is, I think.
Absolutely. And you have I think double plus to sensory, right?
I believe I do. Let me just double check.
It's either double or triple.
It's double.
Yeah. In that case, it takes you less than 2 seconds of searching to pick out the lilac-colored robes that you were shown on the screen. He is currently on a column of water near the top of the fountain, rising out of one of the fountain's little pools, almost like he's being carried on stairs of solid water. He is conducting big portions of the waterworks display like a maestro of a symphony. Any other actions you'd like to take after identifying his presence?
Definitely going to make sure to point it out to my fellow Enclave workers.
Absolutely.
And then I have something that I'd like to try to do, but I'm going to hold off on.
Sure. How are you pointing it out? Are you going to? Is this something that you're going to try to hide? I mean, like obviously he's not hiding, but what would you like to do?
I think since I announced that I'm a tourist, I'm going to go ahead and maybe make a show of it to the rest of the crowd that I'm pointing out where he is. You know, oh look, it's the high priest. Look at what he's doing. He's so high up.
You actually hear a couple of like the surrounding civilians, almost certainly civilians, give like chuckles at this. Though they seem to be laughing more at the high priest line than the high up part of the equation. Jumping over to Maladrev, what would you like to do?
So, as you know, to get a better look, I'm going to slide my way up onto the horse under the pretext of getting a better look at the priest.
Absolutely.
Pulling myself up there. Just a first general question. How problematic is the rain? Given background, I imagine my armor is probably geared for water, but...
Yeah, it's not going to be bad enough to be a problem for your armor unless it gets torrential. Like, it's present. We're talking Seattle tier rain at the moment.
Got it. That's completely bearable.
Yeah.
All right. So I think for the moment, I want to try and focus on the priest for a second here. I can't see him nearly as well as Siri there, but just by the way he's moving and the sort of extravagance of the display, given where he came from, Maladrev has a certain relationship with water, and it's mostly a drowned city as a whole. It's not the place most favorable of those who summon large quantities of liquid.
Yes.
So I guess
trying to get the sense through, particularly my high spirit, of just if this man has any ill intent in this action.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so what parts of him are you going to be trying to focus on to make that determination?
Probably the arms and the particular way he's flowing the water, seeing if it seems more like a sort of gentle flow and sort of trickles of rain, or if it's like whipping up a torrent kind of thing.
What's your spirit stat?
Double plus.
Double plus, okay. So, from this initial observation, and obviously looking over longer periods of time, you'll be able to pick out more, right? One thing screams out at you, right? He enjoys this. He enjoys the spectacle and the pomp of this. Not in necessarily like a, drinking in every second of it, right? But like there's no doubt that he loves being on stage in this way.
Got it.
Absolutely.
So at the very least, that part's sincere.
Yeah. Do you have any immediate follow-up, or can we jump back over to Buzz?
No, not immediate.
Awesome. Buzz, follow-up actions. Now that your fellow party members have done a couple of other things, what would you like to do from here?
Well, I'm going to stride forward and try to get an even closer look.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to beeline for what's his name?
Are you going to actually take steps onto the bridge to
Selden.
cross towards the fountain, towards Seldoon?
Yes, Selden.
Yeah. In this case, as Buzz marches his way right up onto the bridge, he is not stopped. Not by anyone. Though it seems like some of the civilian onlookers are like, but as you make your way halfway, roughly, over the bridge, you can see that towards the base of the fountain, a couple of heads turn towards you. These are individuals who are garbed, again, outlandishly, but how to describe this? Imagine they look like they're wearing very heavy ponchos that are segmented and made out of hard material, rather than made out of soft flowing poncho-like material. And you see, and they're also wearing very interesting hats that almost look like lobster tails to some degree, but quite comprehensive and closing off much of their face. One or two of these individuals kind of turn to look at you as you make your way across the bridge, but at the point where you are currently, about halfway across, they aren't making any movement to stop you. Are you going to continue proceeding across the bridge, or do you have other actions you want to take?
I continue proceeding.
Sure. As you are doing so, anything you want to be doing, or just beelining?
Quick question. Is he still wearing the same lilac clothing, or is it like the Met Gala where he wears a different thing every year?
He is wearing the same clothing. It seems like the screen you were showed was live footage of what was happening while you guys were preparing for the mission.
Oh.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna continue beelining, but I'll do it in sort of a gawping tourist manner, like people walking through Times Square, wow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, though I should note, to quickly clarify, the grand finale that you saw was definitely spliced, such that it was last year's grand finale, this year's outfit. So,
They've got backup footage.
yeah.
Got it.
Now, as you are gawking your way over, you're 3/4 of the way over the bridge when one of the segmented poncho individuals starts to actually kind of move a little bit towards you as you are over exaggeratedly gawking. Something you notice as you are over exaggeratedly gawking. Being a Thunderbird, you have a familiarity with weather patterns. The clouds here are weird. They are forming a perfect spiral over the city that tapers to a point directly over the fountain. The other thing that you notice as you are gawking around is that there are a number of other individuals dressed similarly to Seldoon, clearly his inner circle. From what you are seeing, their hand movements and their elaborations are making much less effect on the waterworks display than his. He seems to be controlling way more of it than them.
Mm-hmm. Do I notice anything about the wind pattern as it relates to the circular cloud pattern?
Yeah, you feel wind, but you also feel that it feels like the very early onset of a tornado, or a cyclone of some kind, a vortex pattern, similar to the clouds. The segmented poncho individual hails you.
Hail.
Excuse me, this is not the time. I understand that this is
It's
not...
fascinating.
Yes,
I just wanted to get a closer look.
Of course, I understand, sir. He moves over towards you, and you can see that...
that garment he's wearing.
It's quite beautiful, is it not?
How it billows.
Yeah, naturally. We have on display, but another of his posse cuts him off. Another of the poncho individuals. What are you doing here?
I'm having a look. It's
I
quite a
understand.
spectacle.
Yes, it is certainly. Let us escort you back across the bridge such that you may have a look from a more respectful distance. I understand no offense was meant, but these are hallowed traditions.
Right.
He actually puts a hand on your shoulder to turn you
Okay,
around.
I'll let him move
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
As you do so, you would notice that
I do apologize. I was just enthusiastic.
I quite understand, he says through gritted teeth. And he says, if it should be of interest, we do have programs available for tourists.
Excellent. Where could I find one of those?
I happen to have a few on my person.
Oh,
He pulls out a beautifully decorated brochure and passes it over to you. It is on water-resistant paper that does not get damaged at all by the rain. As he does so, his poncho lifts enough that you can see a number of weapons hanging from his belt concealed underneath it, though none of them you can make out enough to tell what they are.
interesting.
Now,
Well, thank
during
you, sir.
this during this little scene, Siri, any actions you would like to take?
Yes, Siri is gonna, as she's looking at the priest, just take a cursory glance and see if her eye happens to fall on any, of those. They're not called priests, I know that, but
Yeah.
the other people around during the ritual, as well as glance through the crowd, see if there's anybody who happens to be looking in the wrong direction, or if all of the, religious members are doing hand signals in unison, if one of them is maybe slightly behind or doing a slightly different hand gesture than everybody
That's
else.
so clever. That's a really great question. Now, my first question is, how much are you going to commit to scanning the crowd for this? Because there's a lot of freaking people. What we just did with Buzz, that was a bit of time. So if you want to commit all the time that Buzz is doing this action to just scanning the crowd, then that's one thing. But if you want to do just a quick glance, then we can do some other follow-up actions instead.
I think if possible, I would want to do a quick glance at the crowd and then a more thorough glance at the
Totally.
people performing the ritual.
Absolutely. A quick glance of the crowd reveals a number of faces turned away, but most of them seem to be for more natural purposes. Someone looking for a trash can, someone talking to their neighbor, someone consulting a piece of technology on their person. Nothing weird beyond that. Looking towards the group that are surrounding the fountain itself, a couple of things you notice. Those poncho-clad individuals are not moving at all. They are stock freaking still, except to do things like, for example, see what the heck Buzz is doing. They almost, even when, for example, one of the waterworks bursts and then the water falls down and splatters on top of them, they don't move a muscle, like the Buckingham Palace guards. You do not see any out-of-sync hand motions beyond what seems to be a part of conducting the water. There might be something embedded in that, but that would be very hard to determine.
All right. I guess if I have more time on my
Yeah, fire away.
I would want to turn to some of the people who seem to be amused by my tourist antics.
Yeah.
And start questioning them a bit. Turn to somebody who seems a bit more friendly, perhaps, or
Certainly.
closer by, and just go, what am I supposed to expect? I know that there's this big spectacle, there already is, but what happens in the end? What's going to happen? Or should you not tell me? Should it be a surprise?
You see that a round-faced woman looks politely over towards you, and she says, but as you finish this statement, you see that her face kind of breaks into a more genuine smile, and she says, "It's your first time witnessing it?"
Oh, yes, I'm quite excited. I've heard a bit
Of
about
course.
it.
A few hundred times in and you start to get bored, I promise.
She gestures and she says,
They always come up with different patterns every time. It's quite lovely. You'll see some things like condensation. That's very interesting. They can take the water directly from the air, create it into manipulable objects. They do the coloration effects. You've seen that already. What else has not happened yet? Oh, the geyser show. That's very fun. He started a little bit of
What's
that.
the geyser show?
Water eruptions. She gestures around. You see that there are like grates interspersed on the platform surrounding the bridges, and she says, "Don't be standing on those when it happens. They do not wait for you to get off."
Oh dear. I think I'll take that opportunity and maybe wait until my next turn, but go start making my way towards one of those crates to take a closer look at it.
Absolutely. Jumping over to Maladriv. What would you like to be doing?
So in a slightly similar vein, we were told that this is a generally secular populace, so I guess I'm going to be looking around the crowd for people who seem a little bit bored. Mostly I'm going to look for kids. Like
Okay, so you're on a horse. That by itself is making a lot of people be like, ooh, this is way more interesting than the thing I've seen a million times.
Perfect.
Especially younger people. Like you see quite a few kids and like younger teens being like, oh, there's a horse, you know what I mean?
So to give you an idea of what I'm going for, so you can tell me if something seems totally off base, it seems like we might want to try and draw the attention of those barriers, so to speak. Those ponchoed men.
Yeah.
So if I notice some of the kids noticing, we'll turn down to one of them and give a little bit silly, don't you think? Nod toward the ritual.
He looks over to see what you're nodding at and says, "I don't think that's silly," pointing at your horse. Says, "I've never seen one before, not in real life."
Mouse is the furthest thing from silly.
Give him a pat on the neck.
He blinks and says, "Huh, I've heard of mice before. Never saw one."
Most of them are much smaller than this one.
He nods emphatically and says, "I bet." And says, I don't think it's silly. You saw the colors, right? And the geysers are coming up. That'll be fun.
Is it fun? Maybe we could do the same thing every year.
Well, I wasn't allowed to come last year, or the year before that. I was too small.
Ah, so it's your first time?
No.
he kind of creeps over to you and says,
I snuck in.
Did you? Clever. You and your friends sneak in often?
A couple times.
Well, show me where you did that from. I'll let you pet Mouse.
Oh, come this way. I'll show you.
Now, keep your hands clear. He bites.
"Oh,
All right.
Alright. So you have. You cooperate.
yeah, Mary May, what's up?"
If I'm not too far away, I would love to be able to use my mirror just to make sure that I can keep an eye. I know your character's name starts with an M.
Maladru. No worries.
To keep an eye on Maladru and where he's headed.
Yeah, absolutely. That is easily done. And Buzz, at the same time as this is happening, you're being escorted back over the bridge. You can easily identify where your two teammates are, especially the big dude on the horse who's being who's cantering away from the action.
What's he doing over there with that child?
Yeah. You see that the poncho guy
Seem on mission.
Yeah. The poncho guy brings you to the end of the bridge and says, "I understand the excitement and we greatly appreciate your patronage. If you would like any commemorative souvenirs, you can find them at the following addresses that are listed at the back of the pamphlet. If you would like a commemorative photo taken, we have booths over to the side. Thank you very much." He starts to walk away.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm also here not just as a tourist, but looking for work. How does one advance to a career of your status?
For the first time, he smiles and he says, "Well, I don't really know. It's a matter of career advancement. It's a matter of faith, sir. If you supplicate yourself to the rain, then the rain will provide for you." He stands up a little straighter and says, "I lived a reprobate's life up until about 15 years ago. But then I looked to the rain and I have not looked back since. If you come to the rain and you let it embrace you, and you are honest and upright in your faults and flaws, you will find success, this I can promise you, regardless of whether you are foreign or not."
Oh goodness, how inspiring. Where were you where you had this moment, this revelation and moment of supplication?
He looks over his shoulder a little guiltily, but can't resist giving you a little bit of the juicy deets.
Yeah.
And he says, I was not even a stone's throw from here. He points down like a winding, like very tight road. You don't see any vehicles around here, so the roads are all designed for foot traffic, it would seem. And he says, it was not during one of these events, but I lived a dishonest life, and I was in the process of doing something that today I greatly regret. And the storm broke atop me, and I realized that everything I had been doing could be washed away by the water if I committed to the water.
And you were just right down the path. And the storm broke above you.
He nods earnestly and says, it was the most profound experience of my life, like the rain was talking to me. I still believe it did. Maybe it will talk to you as well.
So I just walked down this path, and I point to where I think he's pointed. Is there a particular spot, or like, I don't know, a structure, or
you see that like
hollow?
the city is very heavily built on itself, so it seems there's like an arched way that leads to like a street, like a walkable street. And through it you can see a couple of storefronts and again more like typical secular structures. And he says, I don't know if it was the location that did it. I believe it was a change in my mindset. You understand, right?
I sure hope to one day.
Good man.
I can become a better person like you.
I'm sure you will achieve it someday. I believe in you. Thank you for being
Clutch
here.
my pamphlet and open it and walk in that direction.
Absolutely. You see that as he turns away, let's bounce back over to Siri, who is able alone to see what everyone is doing at this moment. What does she want to do?
I have two ideas simmering, but I'll go with the easier one first, which is to redirect my magic mirror to try to angle it so I can look further into the geyser grate than maybe I could with my normal eye.
Absolutely.
See if there's anything particular down there that looks dangerous.
Yeah, the water down there is frothing and wild. It looks almost like a snapshot of a whitewater rapid. You know what I mean? You don't know where it's flowing to or where it's flowing from, but the water down there is aggressive.
But that seems in check with what I understand is going to happen if the geyser is going to come.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem odd that that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I'm very tempted to go with an insane plan, but I kind of like it. I guess am I able to? I just re-angled the magic mirror, and I know it has a longer cooldown. Am I able to angle it back towards Buzz and like communicate like with him and tell him what I want to do?
Oh, I see what you mean. So, in terms of looking around with the mirror, no cooldown on that. It's just a mirror when you're doing it for that. But if you're using it to magically communicate with someone, then it would have that high cooldown, but only to recontact the same target. So if you wanted to talk to Buzz again, you'd have to wait a while. But if you want to talk to someone else, you can do it almost immediately. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I don't think I've used it to talk to
No,
Buzz
you have not.
so I can do that now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to Buzz. I'm going to go, what if we told them the truth?
And
Is this the rain coming down? This is my moment of salvation.
Yes,
It's happening.
Be your honest self. Tell everyone why you're truly here.
It's at this point, this communication, by the way, has full audio and visual. So as Buzz looks wildly around, he would actually see the small, almost like magic window that opened up, revealing his ally's face.
Oh, Siri. You gave me quite the scare.
It's your conscience. Listen, I have a plan. I'm going to change myself to look like a good, honest citizen that I am. And I'm going to run to the other side of this arena. And I'm going to start screaming that the ceremony is going to kill the rain. I'm going to see if anybody listens.
Okay. How would
This
you
is
like
my
me to
plan.
support you?
Would you like to also run and scream with me?
I suppose we could take two ends of the same ceremony.
Fantastic. At a certain point, I'm going to dump illusionary water on top of your head. And I need you to act like you can really feel it and that it's hurting you because the gods are angry.
Got it.
Okay, fantastic.
Excellent.
I'll see you shortly. And then I would like to start enacting this plan.
Excellent. We'll get into the details on that in a second. Before that, let's jump over to Maladriv.
Hello.
Now, the child has guided you away from the hubbub of the crowd and down
Yep.
one of those alley type like footpaths, like civilian walkways that I was just describing to Buzz. This is a different one than the one that was I was indicating in that. But after bringing you down only a short distance, he cuts into a tight tucked alley, only barely big enough for mounts to fit. And from there, around to a gushing torrent that has like tight sidewalks on either side. From there, he climbs up the side of the sidewalk, grabs onto like a hanging bar that creates a catwalk above it, climbs under it on his so that he's hanging like a bat, and then climbs into it a little ways before dropping down, still barely within sight, clearly on another concealed catwalk just past where the water is shooting out in endless buckets. He yells out so loudly that, but even so, you can barely hear him over the torrent. He says,
You see here?
Yes, quite a hiding place you've got.
Not a hiding place, it's a walking place. It's the underways.
All right, so I think mouse probably won't fit.
yup.
But I'm gonna guess if this kid did it, there's probably a few more down there. If there's one thing I know about urchins, they make great distractions. So, going to slide off mouse.
If anyone comes, don't kick them too hard.
Give him a quick pat on the side before turning to climb up after the kid.
He smolders. And as you climb up and in, pull yourself into place, you're, what, 2 pluses to might or 1?
2.
Oh yeah, this is not hard. Even in full plate mail, you can swing your way under and then drop down onto the catwalk behind. It's quite well lit in here. You can see that the way the city is structured means that a lot of light openings naturally allow the gray daylight to permeate these underways very thoroughly. In fact, some of the underways you can see actually enable foot traffic. But then there's tiny catwalks like this that swerve around the deep pylons upon which the city is built with flowing and stagnant water dripping just inches beneath your feet. The child ahead of you goes scampering along, pointing as he does so to, for example, a sleek-looking but still kind of janky-looking lift. He says,
That's how I get down to where I live.
and then goes a little further and says,
And that's the way to one of the main pump controls. Didn't touch that one.
and then over a little while longer and says,
And that's the back entrance to... Oh, I don't know if I should say. It's a nice store, and they have lots of good food. But don't steal. Stealing is bad.
So pump controls, you say?
yeah.
I'm definitely gonna make a note of where that is.
Yep, it's not too far.
Okay, cool. I'm not gonna immediately beeline for it, but we're remembering that.
Yeah.
And this is where you watched that from? Or was this just how you got it?
It's how we got in. Me and 3 friends.
Were your three friends?
Well... He says, Calyx is grounded. Adamant is... I forget what he's doing. He might also be grounded, knowing him. And then
He points back above.
he said, Judea is up, looking on the other side. We fought yesterday, and so we're not talking to each other.
He slinks
Sorry to
down.
hear about that.
All right, so kid's grounded. That's hilarious. Okay. Well, getting this one boy to start to raise a ruckus is probably not as effective as a... So, let's see. I think... I don't want to go set off the pump without telling my friends
Yeah.
or my allies, because
Yeah.
that's a big problem,
Yeah.
potentially speaking. Sorry, I'm not immediately sure.
That's fine. Do you want me to cut back?
Yeah, I had a different idea coming in, so I need to adjust.
Totally. Here, let me bounce back to the other two. Siri, do you have any other actions, or do you want to try to convene with Buzz quite quickly?
We're not convening. We're enacting a plan, right?
Yeah, separate directions.
Oh, I see. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you were saying I want to
would,
enact the plan.
If possible, I don't know if I'm able to use veneer twice. It would be great if I could make both myself as well as
I see. Yeah. So
a bit more local looking.
yeah, you could use the same cast of veneer on both of you. However, I think this is where I got confused. Veneer is about painting a target, meaning you got to be a little close in order to do it.
Okay. As what about
Though I will say, I guess you could do it from afar, but since the paired action is about carefully painting a target, it's a lot harder to do the carefully part from afar.
meet up real quick? I don't think we're too far away.
Yeah, you're not horribly far away by any means.
So I think meet up really quick, and gently take. I think.
Are you going to be
it's gonna
trying to conceal yourself from sight while you do this?
Ooh, probably. That's the issue with that is I did shout very loudly that we're tourists and started making a ass of myself. So I don't know exactly how I can get away from both.
That's fine. Well, real quick, while you're considering, Buzz, you've been obviously escorted to the end, talked to the guy, and you're moving away with the with your pamphlet towards
I was walking down the path that
Yeah.
he had gestured at. Yes.
Exactly. You would see Siri not too far away, and it would probably look like she was roughly making her way towards you, if nothing else, to convene briefly. Do you have any other actions, or do you want to keep going in the direction that you had been
I'll
previously?
hold and wait for her, or like approach her.
Absolutely. The two
Because
of
she
you
did just tell me a plan. So.
Yeah. The two of you are a little past like the front line of observers, so you don't have a lot of eyes on you at the moment, but there are people, like plenty of people nearby as the two of you meet. What would you like to do as you reconvene?
So I'm ready for the plan.
Right.
Waiting for your signal.
Need to figure out how to look normal. Quite bad at that.
Speak for yourself. I look pretty normal, and I strike another pose.
Yeah. Admittedly, just looking at Buzz looks more in line with the populace here than you do, Siri.
Okay, well that's something at least.
My clothes are pretty flamboyant.
Yeah.
Okay. And
But I did also make an ass of myself as a tourist.
this is the issue. Is that I draw my plan is always to draw attention to myself, but it's difficult to do that twice in a row. Let's see. I guess if you already look kind of locally, local looking, I guess Siri's just gonna like kind of go behind Buzz in a way that like most people aren't looking at her, and then try to use veneer just on her clothes, and maybe if anybody notices, like try to make a show of like, oh look, I like kind of muttering to herself, so if someone's listening, and she can be like, oh look, I look like all the locals now, and trying to like be one of those horrible tourists that everybody but, like nobody's surprised by.
Sure. Well, that's a very easy veneer for you. Like, one of the big things with veneer is you're going off of something that you know or something that you can see, and you see these clothes everywhere. So changing the appearance of your clothes is child's play. With the same use of veneer, do you want to keep doing stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind quick, like, just hair change to stuff. Like, I don't know if, like, I was imagining Siri had, like, kind of bleached blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I would assume that this place maybe doesn't have as many people.
Yeah, you don't see a single blonde.
Yeah,
Whoa.
so brown hair.
Yeah.
Neutral brown is what I'm getting.
Absolutely. Changing hair color is also child's play. Now, you can still keep the veneer up if you have other tweaks on yourself or any tweaks that you want to try to make to Buzz. Just tell me how you would want to approach this.
Buzz, is there anything about you that you think would stick out a bit more, or that, like, if that same guard saw you a second time would be more noticeable?
I think my clothes are pretty flashy, so if you just change my clothes to any other thing,
Yeah, I'll just
would
like
not be able to
maybe
recognize
dull it
me.
down a little bit.
yeah.
Absolutely. And since a lot of the people here wear very flowy, like raincoat style, like robe style things, Buzz's cloak, which is one of the main notable things about him, it actually fits really well with that style of outfit. So changing the appearance of that is also quite easy. Overall, this veneer has been very easy on you, magically speaking, and can be done quite quickly.
Oh, can I change my rain hat or my like witch hat to like a bucket hat?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then with my magic mirror, I have it kind of like set on Buzz.
Mhm.
Will it continue to be with Buzz, or will I have to like reattach it to Buzz later?
That's a great question. Since you never closed the line of communication, you do still have it open. Since you haven't been actively communicating with him through it, it's fine to keep it up a little bit longer. But whenever you're trying to communicate with him through that little window, it's going to exhaust the talk time. And eventually it will have to drop. And the connection to him will go on cooldown.
Would it be better to drop it now and try to start it up again later?
That's a good question. If you drop it, the cooldown will be substantial. Like, it will probably not be until well after your plan is executed.
Okay.
So you can have it for the first part of your plan.
Okay, I'll keep it up then.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do like a quick high five.
Yeah.
And then I think just start like trying to zigzag through the crowd to.
Absolutely. Let's start with Buzz here. Buzz, how do you want to proceed? I'm assuming you're going the bang opposite direction of Siri.
Yeah, I'm gonna bang opposite and also away from the one bridge that I already went on.
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
And it's gonna be just like full on mayhem, waving in my hands,
Yeah.
screaming. Yeah.
So do you want to make a little distance before you start screaming, or are you going to do this immediately?
I'm gonna try to get away from the poncho person who gave me the brochure.
Absolutely. And you have a plus to vigor, which means that running through a crowd at speed is going to be like, you can cover some ground while you do this. Now, after sprinting a short distance, give me an idea of like what you're going to be screaming and like how you're going to be like flailing your body about it, or what's your distraction look like.
The line was? What are we trying to convince people of?
That the gods are cursing us or something like that.
Oh, the gods are cursing us through the rain. I'm gonna be shaking people randomly and grabbing them.
Yeah.
Like, the gods, they're good. They're cursing us through the rain. The rain is a blight.
And as you do so, at first you hear people say, "Sir, are you okay, sir?" And then another woman says, "Do you have something to sell me, sir?" But then as you keep going a little way further, another person like offers you a tip, and then another person is like, "Do you think he's unwell?" What do you want to do from here?
I'm gonna keep going.
Absolutely. As you're making your way through the crowd, yeah, like an ass is thoroughly made. People are like very uncomfortable, but you're getting a lot of eyes on you. On Siri's side, what do you want to do?
Yeah, Siri's gonna try to zigzag like into a spot where she, like away from the spot they teleported where she's been, and then once she feels thoroughly away, she's gonna like fall to her knees and start screaming at, going, "It's cursed! It's cursed! I can't believe it! It's gonna go away if he does it! If he does the ritual, it's all gonna stop! The rain will be gone! Oh no!" And just start like melting down.
And as you do so, people come rushing to you, and they like try to get you to your feet. "Ma'am, is everything all right? Here, have a drink. Try to calm down. It's gonna be all right." But then another voice says in your ear, "What were you saying about that? I promise you, ma'am, nothing of that nature is going to happen. It's gonna be all right. Don't worry."
The rain will stop. And as I do that,
Yeah.
I want to I don't know if I can do this. Okay, plan A
Yeah.
is we'll see if this works. Plan A, can I use Phantasm to create the illusion of the rain, like, stopping?
Oh
like,
my!
Like, I understand you
wow.
can still feel the rain.
Yeah. Okay.
Not of the
so
whole place, obviously that's too much, but like in either my area or where the
Yeah.
where Sawton is, I think that was his name, like a bit like, you know, Katara in that one.
Of course,
scene,
yeah.
yeah, that kind of that.
Yeah,
vibe.
normally Phantasm adds things, but you're almost doing a Phantasm of like empty air where there is filled air. Like,
Yeah.
that's so freaking interesting. I'm going to say this. Give me a little bit on how this would feel different from a normal Phantasm to you, magically. And think about what the paired action is going to be for this as well, because obviously you're in a hysterical fit. Normally doing like a showy flourish is not going to be a problem. But this is definitely a different type of Phantasm than what you would normally doing. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to briefly tap in with Buzz, and then we're going to jump back over to Maladriv. Now,
Yeah.
Buzz, you can hear her from across the entire thing, by the way. Like, her voice cuts over even like the spectacle of the display. That being said, on your side, do you have any follow-ups or adaptations to how you're going about making your distraction? You, again, have eyes on you. People are very uncomfortable.
Am I able to see the effect of what she's doing or no?
She is obscured by the fountain at the moment.
Okay. No, I'm just going to keep going.
Absolutely.
And keep moving and make more and more people unsettled.
Yeah. Well,
But I'm
mission
not going to stay in
accomplished.
any one place. Like, she fell to her knees. I'm going to keep
Yeah,
moving
I
because
see what you mean.
I don't think I can withstand the same amount of scrutiny.
Totally. And
I don't have relevant magic.
Exactly. And as you're making your way through, since you're moving at speed, she would eventually come around the corner of the fountain, such that by the time the two of you sync up in time again, you will be able to see what she is doing next. Let's jump back down to Maladriv in the underways. What do you want to do?
All right. So, I assume I can hear none of that because there's a lot of water down here.
You would actually hear a little bit of yelling from above, but it would be kind of muffled, and as of yet, not clear whether it's like cheering or something else.
All right. Well, if I can hear whatever that is, I'm willing to bet this child can hear me in Gareth thinks if I need that later. What are the controls like on that pump?
Absolutely. So taking a look over, the pump is connected to the catwalk that you are on. Excuse me, I'm going to hiccup. I'm just going to keep talking. It's going to happen. Is connected by another small section of catwalk leading to a very heavy door. The controls are kind of encased in almost like a safe that you could walk into, but the safe has windows to it that are made of like translucent metal. And inside, the pump controls seem to consist of three things. One, a gleaming table of magical water. One. Two, after a little bit of craning of your neck, a series of heavy levers. They don't look like, it's not like working on the railroad type levers. These are like substantially more elegant and seem to be able to lock in a couple of different positions. And lastly, you can see what you're in your character's from an underwater city, right?
Yeah, like a drowned city kind of place.
Yeah, in that case, he wouldn't...
Flooded more like than fully underwater, but...
Yeah. He wouldn't recognize it exactly for what it is, but he sees what almost certainly looks like some sort of conch shell. And it's a conch shell affixed to a wall.
Huh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that's for communication, but...
It's a fair guess from your character's background.
It's a thing that looks to be hollow on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So just make sure I'm understanding this correctly. It's like locked behind a cage, sort of.
Yeah.
All right. Do I see any obvious way of opening or accessing, or unobvious? Like just doesn't necessarily need to be convenient to do so.
So for one thing, that water table type thing, it seems to connect to the floor and seems to have a trickle of water coming out of it at all times, meaning that it probably has a direct pump access to the water beneath it. Two, The more obvious way in is it does have this big door, which it seems to be closed by like a gasket or a seal that seems like it's made of two half circles connected together. You don't see any obvious handhold of any type. The entire thing has it seems to have very tough walls, like quite a durable structure. You don't see any obvious weak points in the design, though you do see that it is not connected to the ground. It is suspended from the ground above it on a series of thick cables.
So cutting the cables seems like a potential way to get in?
It would take serious work, but possible.
All right.
I got in the toolbox.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any particularly viable way for me to just tear it, get this thing open in short order. I'm gonna try the door at least.
Yeah, absolutely. As you approach it, like I said, it doesn't have any obvious handhold. It's again made of these two clasped semicircles that join in the middle and that are somewhat inlaid. So there's a little bit of a groove around them.
All right. Try shifting them.
Going in with your hands, they don't respond to the shifting of your fingers trying to rotate them.
Push in, pull back, just generally fiddle. If I can't find anything out, honestly, probably Maldrew's just going to get frustrated and turn away.
Yeah. As you push it and pull out, you do feel one thing. The door kind of jiggles. You know when you're what's a good analogy? Grabbing a chain link fence and going like this. There's some give when you try to move the door.
All right. Chain link fence style give. So does it feel like it could be pushed, pulled, other?
There's no, the crack is way too small to get anything into. Even the tip of your sword would have trouble with that. But in terms of somewhere else to give to, it seems like the doors slide open and there are grooves in the wall that take them. You could get your hand in one of those if you wanted to, but just a matter of where to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I could get something really thin through two arms.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that would actually help me open it from the engagement I'm having with the door so far.
Yeah.
From a leverage perspective here, I'm having a difficult time visualizing what the issue is.
Yeah.
Does it seem like something thin could slot in?
It doesn't seem like something into the main opening point, the obvious looking entry, lock interface to the door. Are you talking about, or are you talking about the slit where it joins to the wall?
That would be the slit.
Oh yeah, you could definitely get something in there.
And very silly use of this ability, and I don't actually know if it will go anywhere. But I feel like I should commit because I've already dragged us down here this far, so I guess we'll go along for something.
Yeah.
What is Alright, I think I just want a pretty long, thin, but chunky blade in that case.
Yeah.
In terms of the triggering action for two arms, I think it's more going to be standing there and on it.
Well, I've already come this far. Back away now. Don't look like an idiot in front of the child.
Sort of trying to psych myself up, most self-targeting through the speech.
Absolutely. And you said a short, thick blade of some kind?
Thin blade.
Thin blade,
sturdy
right.
blade.
Yeah.
Because a thick blade wouldn't get through.
Absolutely. Are you going for more of a utility style knife, or are you going for a chunky combat knife?
I'm going for more utility style. I'm hoping to get enough leverage that I can rely on physical strength after that.
Absolutely. This would be like a six, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
A side knife. Yeah. As the blade appears in your hand, it's the easiest two arms of your life. Very, very doable. What do you want to try to do with it?
Slide it into that space and then see if I can get any amount of further prying or directional shove out of that. Just once I can get more of a grip.
Absolutely. This, judging by the section of catwalk that you're on, this is not a heavily frequented place. And one of the problems with having a metal door in a place full of water is rust. And rust starts to like pour out of the section just as you're like kind of scraping around with the knife. You feel plenty of like pockets where you can like hook the knife in, get a little bit of resistance, even some places where you literally can like push through old rusted metal bits of the interior.
All right, I'm gonna do that with probably slightly more force than is necessary, and just start trying to push way in. I don't need this to open enough for me to get all the way through. I need it to open enough that I can get him through and give him a signal to trigger it later.
Yeah, absolutely. As you push against this knife, you feel the handshake, your handshake on the blade shake, the door shake, the catwalk shake. The whole thing just kind of vibrates slightly. The child gives like a, "Are you sure this is all right? Stealing
Of course I'm sure.
Stealing isn't good. We're stealing entry, right?
I'm not taking anything. I'm protecting your city.
Really?
And you are going to help me do it.
What did the door
Yes.
do to the city?
Somebody very bad is trying to do something to that ritual up there.
And then with a crunch, the door kind of accordions in a little bit. You could probably fit through it with trouble, but he can fit through it easily.
Sort of roll out shoulder a bit.
He stares at you, not moving.
Listen. You want to be a hero, right?
I
You want to
mean,
do something impressive?
you know.
Your friend up there, the one you're fighting with,
Yeah?
very proud of you. You can help keep this place safe.
That's not fair.
Well, it's true.
He kind of slouches over to the door and says, "What do you want me to do? Please don't get me in trouble. I don't want to be grounded."
If anyone gets in trouble, you just tell them I made you do it. They'll believe that.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I don't need this to be precise.
When you hear me shout to you, I'm going to make a lot of noise. You will hear it. I want you to just start pressing buttons, turning levers, and playing with that thing.
Anything?
Got it?
Really?
Perfect. Yes. Do it as much as you can and as much as you want.
And I have to wait for you to say something, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You need a signal.
Right. Okay. And if I do it, everyone will know I did something good?
Do it. I'll make sure everyone knows you were a hero.
Promise?
Promise.
He rummages around for a second and takes out a small bubble and says,
Say it. Say you promise.
Squints at the bubble.
Magic, I'm guessing.
Say it.
I promise. What is this?
he takes the bubble back, and you see your face encased in it as a little image, your hand raising up, and you hear like your voice distorted as though underwater, saying, "I promise." And he says, "Ha! Now you have to do it." He slides it into his pocket and scoots through the opening that you made.
Good. Now listen close. Shouldn't be too long.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Oh no.
Are you going to make your way back out the way you came in?
Yep.
Absolutely. The climb out is very easy now that you know what you're doing, and you see that Mouse is waiting for you with a very frightened-looking person nearby who says, "Oh, thank God, the horse hasn't let me leave. What is that thing even doing here?"
Now, Mouse.
Look this person up and down.
They look like a citizen, but not of fantastic means.
Mouse here is a guard. You must have thought you were up to something. You weren't, were you?
No, of course not. You are up to something. Access to the underways through that entrance is...
But before they can finish it up, Mouse goes,
I'm gonna put a hand on their shoulder.
Do you want to finish that sentence?
"No, sir."
Great! Now, if you don't mind, come with me.
We're gonna turn them and start marching them back to the crowd so they
But
can go in.
I haven't done anything.
Oh, you're not in trouble.
But How has this been turned about? You're the one who's been going into the underways. I could report. Mouse gives
Not
another.
in trouble yet. You don't want to change that.
I see. You come back up into
On
the.
the back.
Yeah.
Listen, this is an internal. It's for their own good.
Yeah.
Gotta do this.
You re-enter the fountain arena to see what is about to take place. Now, we're going to jump over to Siri. Buzz is in eye shot of this happening, and Buzz, if you see anything that you want to do as this is happening, just let me know. Siri, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I think Siri, based on the paired action, Siri starts like banging on the ground as she's screaming about the rain stopping, about the priest like being cursed,
Yeah.
and everything. And I think as she's doing that, that's sort of the showy flourish of bang on the ground.
I see.
As well as I think it's fair to say that since this is an elimination thing as opposed to a creation thing, it's gonna drain her a bit more
Yeah.
than a normal cast would. But as that's happening, it would be fantastic if that Katara effect that I was talking about happens over Sawton.
Oh, okay. First of all, beautiful
That's
paired
too much.
action.
Okay.
No. That's you're good. Like especially the fact that you added the drain, it being more draining than normal justifies the extra range. And because of that, everyone gasps. Buzz, from your perspective, people stare up. Empty space, from what it looks like, directly above Soldoon. The poncho-clad individuals down below immediately move into action, starting to rush across the bridges, looking alarmed. Many of Soldoon's assistants also start to stop their waterworks and look down and around at the crowd, some even coming down from on high on the fountains, skipping between the water as though it were light as air. The only person who does not change what they are doing is Soldoon himself. He continues to conduct the waterworks serenely as though nothing had happened. But Siri, the most pronounced action is around you. People are terrified. Immediately they gasp, and a few of them start to like pull you away and say, "Ma'am, what is going on? What do you know? How is this happening?"
I just continue to scream. I say, it's cursed, it's cursed. I don't know why, but it's cursed. I didn't do the accent, but...
That's perfectly fine. And as you do so, a number of them start calling, "She needs help! There's something going on! She needs help!" And you can see that many of the poncho-clad individuals are starting to beeline on you. You have like 6 or 7 coming towards you at this moment.
Oh God.
Let's jump over to Buzz.
Yeah. I'm going to see what she has done, and I am going to use my feathered cloak to sort of levitate in the air, but as if I am out of control, and the elements are like dragging me around to reinforce this narrative that like chaos is happening and like I can't control what's happening. It's cursed.
You won't be able to get that high off the ground because obviously normally the feathered cloak is like trying to work with existing wind currents, but you have some wind here, so
like
you can totally like flap it around.
like as if I'm being jerked around.
Yeah. And as you do so, a few of the folk down below, now they're paying attention to you. Sir, are you all right? Someone tries to jump up and grab your leg and tries to pull you down out of the air.
In addition, look what's happening. And I gesture at the vacuum. The void,
and as you are doing so, a bunch of those poncho-clad individuals you're floating around. They immediately start to beeline towards you in this section as well. You also have like 4 or 5 coming towards you at this moment. But eventually, your feathered cloak is starting to lose a little bit of its traction, and the person grabbing your leg manages to pull you back down onto the ground. "I have you. Don't worry. I'm not going to let you go away. It's all right. What is going on? What's going on?" What do you want to do from here, Buzz?
I don't know what's going on. I actually don't know what her end goal was, so I'm just like,
I'm just
gonna maintain the line of it's all cursed. It's all gone wrong.
And as you do so, one of the poncho-clad individuals who's sprinting at this moment approaches you. Sir, you need to tell me exactly what happened. What happened to you? Why were you up in the air?
I couldn't control myself. It's cursed. I heard. I had a vision. It feels wrong. Everything feels wrong.
He stares into your eyes and says, "A vision, you say?"
Yeah.
His eyes start to narrow. And he says, "Please come with me, sir."
Oh my goodness. I go limp.
Let's jump back to Siri.
I think Siri's screaming.
Yep.
Still screaming. It's cursed. The ritual is cursed. Don't let him finish it. Don't let him finish it. They'll
And
be
as
mad.
she is doing so, one of the poncho-clad individuals, again sprinting, reaches her. "Ma'am, calm down. Look at me. Look at me." He roughly grabs you by the nape and like angles your face to face him. "What is going on? What have you seen? What have you done?"
I haven't done anything, sir. Please, you have to believe me.
And you
I
see
really
that.
want to like play up like the
Yeah.
damsel in
Of
distress,
course.
like the vapors have gotten to
Yeah. And you can see that another one of these individuals has come over to you. He takes you by the shoulder and starts to lift you up, and he says, "You're going to need to come with us, ma'am." But as he does so, a few of the audience members around you start to intervene. One of them yells, No, put her down. She clearly needs the infirmary." "She doesn't need the infirmary. She's talking about visions. There's clearly some sort of possession going on at play here." "No, there isn't possession going on at here, you fool. When have you been possessed in the last decade? Ever? No. No one's been possessed in this damn city. It's just superstition." And then as he says this, another one of the poncho-clad individuals pulls a weapon. It looks almost like a steel crab claw with a bubble forming between its prongs. And he says, "You are going to need to stand down, sir." Actions, yeah?
Make the bubble float away.
It's such a small phantasm that I'll let it go. And there's this like moment of silence where everyone's just like and as it happens, the man who's talking about who was condemning the possession says, "Well, there you have it. Clearly your weapon's possessed then, idiot." And the guy with the bubbleless weapon strikes and gives him a blow across the head with the weapon, knocking him out cold instantly.
That escalated quickly.
Before we go further, Maladrov, you have come back in to see the scene of the vacuum, and then you are inside of the two pockets of chaos. Although, of course, the poncho-clad individuals are filtering out elsewhere into the audience as well, just not nearly as concentrated. What do you want to do?
Okay, so what am I immediately aware of in terms of team violence, etc.?
Now, you aren't able to see Siri, but you can hear her for sure. And so you know where she is. You are able to see Buzz because you saw him blowing around. And so you know where the two of them are, and you know that there are the aggressors kind of like concentrating around them both, with more backup filtering in from other parts of the venue to both locations.
So, roughly speaking, where is this group of aggressors? Like, how much space-ish are they filling?
We can say, like, around your two allies.
Yeah.
So they're in two different, almost equidistant in different directions, and each of them is filling like a bedroom-sized area. So they're quite tightly packed and clearly trying to crowd control.
Okay, so Siri's the one who's least combat, so we're gonna focus her. Is she close to me, or can I get there quickly if I kick into a gallop?
Kicking into a gallop, you'll get there fast.
Great. So I am going to be leaning into shield wall for this one. Actually,
I have a
want
feeling.
to kind of rear back to try and get Mouse to. I'm trying to go for rear. I'd like the paired action to be the actual stomp.
Oh, that's so sick.
And we're going to just shout, "That is enough!" Rather than full shields, given the feeling of the water everywhere and where I came from, can I be trying to think back to those situations of the threats rising from the water and make this more of like a net to come down over the group?
Sick. Or at the very least, like a cone of shields rather than a wall. Yeah. And are you trying to isolate Syria or isolate her and her captors?
her and her captors, because she can technically get out of this and they can't.
Absolutely.
And this will rebuff and shove them, so she should be okay. She should be able to escape in some of that
Fantastic.
inevitable further chaos.
That is so sick. I love the horse stomp. And because of that, Siri, you would notice it before they do. A series of shields, much larger than any person would be able to carry, in almost like a TP-like formation, come down from above and embed into the ground around you, trapping the guys who are trying to like pull you out from the crowd and separating them out both from their incoming backup and also from the crowd that's trying to push in around them. Before we go further here, because there's going to be plenty going on, Maladrift, do you have a follow-up?
Keep your hands off her, you brutes!
Are you galloping towards, or are you just yelling?
I'm just yelling at this point. I don't want to be sort of between them and Buzz.
Yeah.
Don't have my... We're gonna be going for kind of clang of metal against the barding, actually, is probably my best follow-up for making sure sound's following in through here.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't want to gear things just yet, because that's going to be additional chaos, so I'm just going to gear up towards it by shouting.
Absolutely. Jumping back over to Siri briefly, then to Buzz. Siri, that came out of nowhere, but you do hear Maladrift's mighty voice echoing even above the chaos, clearly in your general direction. You have enough sensory that you can determine that sort of thing. Immediate follow-ups, your captors are panicking and flinging themselves against the shields, bashing at them and trying to break out. You do not have any hands on you at the moment.
I think is there anybody in the crowd who like seems to be sympathetic? Like there were people who wanted to protect me from those people.
Yeah, can't tell through the shields.
Okay.
May I remind
general-
of a
Yeah, you can
mechanic
remind. That's totally
Siri's aware
fine.
of? So Siri would know she can move through these as if they were intangible.
Yeah, as an ally to Maladrift, she can pass through the shields.
Okay. Are they all around me currently?
Yes, they have encircled you and your captors.
In that case, I am going to go through them. Otherwise, I might not have because I don't want people to think I'm possessed.
Yeah.
But I'll go through them and kind of head towards the safety of the crowd.
Absolutely. As you pass out of the shields, actually a number of people rush out and try to pull you into the crowd away from the, again, oncoming rush of further assailants. Maladrift managed to trap like 7 of them. There's like another 10 that are rushing over for backup, especially now that frickin' shields have fallen out of the sky.
Yeah, I think rush to the safety of the crowd, continue to point and like maybe act as if I can't even speak anymore, just like point and like vaguely scream, and if I may, shift the phantasm that's going on of the water stopping to allow... Oh, do I know the language of this, like the written language of the city we're in?
You would not know the native language, but they do use the common language of Metro in addition to their native language.
I'll go ahead and risk it for the biscuit then. If I may, allow some of that water that I was illusory stopping to come through, spelling out the word stop right in front of me.
Oh, that's so sick. I'm going to say that as you are doing so, that takes a good amount of frickin' focus right there.
Yeah,
and it unfortunately results in your phantasm vanishing after you do it. But you did get the words out before it vanished. Okay. It was being pushed to the limits of its duration anyways, so
no,
this
completely
is a fitting finale. Jumping back over to Buzz, you've been confronted with this aggressor. What do you want to do?
Yes, I've been confronted. I have gone limp.
Yep.
I've fallen to the ground, and now I'm going to start faking a seizure where I like convulse on the ground and use that as my paired action for storm brewing.
Oh, that's so sick! Oh, I love it.
So I want the weather to change such that there's like I don't know, like turbulence in the air, and like things start vibrating all around.
Holy shit, that's so good.
In time with my convulsion.
Yeah, you feel rough hands trying to grab you, but you hear a voice in the crowd. How dare you? Get off of him! He needs medicine! He needs help! And then you hear, this man is a danger. We need to bring him. He's not a danger! Look at him! And you hear fighting as the civilians start to try to bodily push the aggressors off of you. This, as your fake seizure continues, you feel the throbbing in the air, and you hear people like yelling and like clutching their ears in surprise and discomfort as, like, you know, the popping of an airplane. Imagine that, but like constantly. I will say though, you are totally fine. You are immune to your own storm brewing's downsides. So, anything you want to do or do you want to just continue the seizure?
I'm
Do you
just
want
going to
to
continue that.
Do you want to try to build the turbulence or keep it at its level?
No, I think I want the crowd to still be able to act.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you do so, you feel them move into position around you, body blocking you from being apprehended.
Aw, right.
Jumping back over to Maladrov. Actions from you. You did not see Ciri exit the shield wall, but it's very hard to make out what's going on over there.
Yep.
You do see that Buzz has vanished from view. It looks like he fell, but you also feel the weird movement in the air, the throbbing pulsing. You can see that Mouse hates it and starts tossing his head immediately.
Fair. Going to give a quick dig of the heels and a easy, trying to sort of push to calm. So, crowd seems to be on our side.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Are you going to let these people keep at this? Look at them, in the name of religion, bashing women and injured men.
And as you see,
Whatever they're
people
trying to
look.
do now is not in the name of the good for your city.
And as you say this, a face in the crowd, you actually kind of recognize it. Looks like it might be a relative of the child that you were with earlier. Says to you, "What are we supposed to do? Do you
Wake
see?
up now. Show them what they can't do.
But he
They can't
wields the
beat you
water.
down.
He can beat us down with water and rain. We have families. We have lives. We can't
Those
throw
of
them
us here, They
away."
can't. I'm not asking you to throw away your lives. I'm asking you to stand up for them.
can I use 2 arms?
Yes.
Awesome. What I'm looking for is water-resistant armor, so sort of thick, like, tunics of waxed wool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a few of them, we'll go with, like, spears, because if there's not something you're fighting that a water jet can't stop.
How many people are you trying to arm? Is this like as many as
Honestly,
possible?
I want a lot, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're addressing a pretty big crowd. The armor manifests on over 24 of them.
Awesome.
And spears appear in the hands of about 6 or 7. And you can see that they're shocked to it. And people like touch their new garb and look to you. But the person who said this at first says, "How did you do that? Is this an illusion? Is this a disguise?"
It's as real as anything. Put your hand to it and see for yourself. Or let them test it. But you'll show them. You have weapons against that magic they wield.
And as people start to look towards the center fountain, for the first time since you guys got here, Saldun is lowering his arms and looking
Do
around.
not be swept away by the tide. Fight it back!
And you hear a ragged yell taken up as first a trickle, then a rush of people start to swarm towards the fountain, smashing through the relatively small number of oppressors that are on this side. Now, follow-ups after you set this in motion. What do you want to do?
Well, they've got their water resistance. Now seems like a good time to let out just a big old war cry that will frighten my neighbors, so give a little bit of that to imagination and activate Gareth things. And then I'm kicking in the heels and charging at one of the groups.
And as you do so, and start to rush in towards one of these groups, you see that they have their crab claw bubble things up. And now that you actually see them in action, it's like a mace that they can also use to grab people. If the bubble goes around someone, they can literally like almost tase you and hold you in
That's
place.
awesome and terrifying.
Yeah. And so they're using it to like mostly do like takedowns on people and try to bash people down. But a horse is a whole different ball of wax. How are you going to impact the first pair that you come across?
Not particularly gracefully. I kind of just want to go charge through to make it as visible as possible. The less I veer my path, the more imposing I seem.
Absolutely. They are bowled asunder as though they were nothing. Are you making for the bridge, or are you trying to focus on other active enemies nearby?
I think Buzz is probably a better candidate for the main thing here. I'm gonna go for active enemies and clearing him room.
Absolutely. The next one of the guys with the claw hammers is immediately bashed to the ground as well. But just past him, you see one of the priests, flanked by another 3 of them. You see that his hands are up and almost trembling as water is starting to rise from the fountain pool behind him in a small but very solid wall. And by small, I mean like taller than him.
Yep. All right. I think I want to go for a very deliberate pointing of the sword here. It's not the best weapon to use from horseback, but it looks scary. I'm hoping for Gearthinks to goad him into a panicked shooting of the water, because that's something I can veer and try to get behind him.
Absolutely. And as you do so, he sends forward a gush, like almost like a extra large fire hose jet of water clear towards center mass on you and Mouse.
All right. I have a chunk of pretty decent resilience, but we don't want to take it head on, so go for a side swipe and maybe just brace that one arm against me that's likely to get struck. Absolutely.
Mouse also kind of skids for a moment so that he can lean into the brace as well, and this hits you like a fucking bowl. Slams into the 2 of you. You feel it smashes into your arm, but between you and Mouse together and the heavy armor that you wear and your high resilience, you are sent skidding backwards, but not badly injured. Jumping briefly back over, come on camera, jumping briefly back over to Siri. Actions on your end, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I'm thinking that this is going to get a bit more combat, which I'm not as familiar with. So I think the thought process I'm having is, okay, I think we're getting things in motion so that the ritual isn't going to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
We need to figure out why ritual would have stopped the rain so that if they just start it up once we leave, it won't happen. So I think genuinely for the first time, Siri's been faking this entire meltdown, but I think for the first time with like genuine sincerity, she looks up at the rain and goes, "Why would you stop?"
Ooh.
Out loud.
Very interesting. Now, as you do so, a couple of things happen. First of all, you hear sounds of battle taking place, and second of all, Maladrov's mighty voice echoes out over everything. Clanging of weapons. For you, it feels inspiring. But you can see for many of the attackers nearby, they start to get like seized up a little bit or nervous at the sound of it. But also, from the grates in the ground around everyone nearby, geysers start to wildly emit into the air. Jets of water start leaping wildly out of the fountain as well, shooting and arcing out in all different directions. A few of them take, for example, civilians by surprise and wash them away. Some take like enemy soldiers by surprise and wash them away. Absolute frickin' pandemonium. And in the midst of all this, you can see that as you are looking up with water arcing over you and everything, and the clouds up above in their spiraling roil, and the air pressure trembling in your ears, you see, in a few thin drips of water, a word similar to like what you spelled out with your illusion. It's a short word, and it says, adder. And that is it. The letters vanish.
Google what that word means.
The letters vanish as quickly as they arrive. Before we go further, there's a lot going on. Let's jump back over to Buzz.
Yeah.
Your fake seizure has caused the trembling air to become thoroughly permeated. There's combat going on around you, and you hear the Gerathinks activated by Maladrov, leading with it a whole litany of reactions from the folk around you, inspiration from some of the folk at your, like the citizens who start to fight harder, hesitation and nerves from some of your opposition, and then all of the pump fountains start shooting off at the same time. Amidst this chaos, what do you want to do?
Okay, so no one's paying a special attention to me anymore?
Yes, for the first time in a while, you are not the focus.
All right, I'm gonna get up then, and I'm gonna join the combat.
Absolutely. Now, if you're going for the enemies who are closest to you, you see that 2 of them are holding off a pretty decent litany of largely unarmed citizens who are mostly just trying to push them backwards. Again, their weapons are mostly specializing in unarmed or like non-lethal combat, so they're like taking people down, but they're pretty freaking violent about it. How do you want to approach them? They are probably 20, 25 feet away from you at this point.
I am going to leap at them from behind and lightning bolt them.
Are you doing like a point blank lightning bolt, or is this going to be?
Yeah,
like
just like try to slice through both of them, like as it lances through the air.
Absolutely. The lightning bolt arcs between the two of them. You get like a little feedback off of this because of how close it is. Your fingers seize up and your hair singes a little bit. It smells awesome. And as you do so, the two of them are caught in a sudden like rush. As the lightning hits the two of them, you see it kind of sparks over the wet floor as well and snakes a little bit up into the air. And the two of them fall to the ground in a seizing, twitching, smoldering mass. One of them might be dead. The other one is not doing well. What do you want to do from here?
I'm going to leap to another part of the combat.
Absolutely. Moving towards another part, you see that there is a more robust group of them. They seem to be pulling back into kind of a more tight-knit combat unit. You can see that there's 5. They have arranged themselves in a more orderly formation, and a few of them have bubble-like shields deployed to try to push back the people throwing in towards them. Behind them is one of the water-manipulating priests, who is currently literally lifting citizens from the ground in almost bubble-like prisons to try to keep them out of the fight.
Can I run at them and use my winged sandals to try to like leap over them to bash the priest over the head with my hammer?
Yeah, absolutely. As you start to climb into the air, step, each step taking you a little bit higher, you can see that, well, first of all, they were not fucking expecting that. The soldiers are, like, one of them tries to raise a shield, but they're, like, you're well overhead of that and can easily get behind him towards the priest. You can see that the priest, as he starts to realize what's going on, lets one of the civilians drop from their bubble and arcs his hand towards you, and you see the air around you start to condense into water as he tries to encase you in a bubble as well. What do you want to do?
I am hoping... Can I like let my momentum drop a bit so I can dodge the bubble as I am continuing to move toward him?
Yeah, I see what you're doing. How are you going to move your body? Because you're in like a running stance. Are you going to be trying to dive or slide, or how are you going to be moving?
I'm going to do a mid-air slide with my hammer still over
That's so sick. Was it like you're using the sandals to slide on air rather than step on air? Absolutely. Yes. That's sick. The bubble misses you like a grasping hand as it tries to form overhead. You are now about to be within swinging distance of this guy. Where are you going to be aiming on him?
On his head. Boing.
Yeah.
Like King DDD. You know? like the Gophers.
Yeah, he is pulverized. His head splits and he immediately falls to the ground in a bloody mess. As you land behind him, do you have any immediate follow-ups? You actually, for the first time, have completely unblocked bridge access to the fountain because they were holding the head of the bridge, and you're behind them.
No, I'm taking a moment for a superhero pose.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll run later.
As you do so in your superhero pose, you actually see during that brief moment that the group of 5 that had been protecting the priest is routing. They're trying to, like, literally, they are jumping into the roiling waters of the fountain rather than trying to fight the crowd.
Interesting.
After striking your pose, what do you want to do from here?
I'm gonna beeline for the fountain.
Absolutely. And as you do so, you can see that Soldin, for the first time, having paused his act, is starting to step gently down the fountain, each footstep elevated by a geyser as he descends directly towards you.
So fancy.
Before we go further, let's jump back over to Maladriv.
Hello.
Now, having just taken this big smashing blow of water, you can see that as the water starts to break, a number of your rallied civilians are coming to like kind of flank at your side, though none of them really dare get too close to the priest.
That's probably for the best, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm gonna sort of straighten up and crick head back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Look them down. Kick heels, charge!
And as Mass starts to charge, you can see the priest starts trying to gather water, but with the pumps going haywire, the water is no longer calm and easy for him to control. It's almost like he's trying to pick up sand that's falling out of his fingers.
I'm glad I could make a child a terrorist today. It's for the city's good, I promise.
And
All right,
as he tries to
perfect.
gather up handfuls of water, he just starts like hurling them at you at speed, like no finesse, no artistry. And these things, at first it's like, oh yeah, they're water. But as one of them hits someone at your side, they clearly are hitting with heavy impact force, just enough to like floor people.
In that case, I want to be mostly focusing on being hit instead of the people I'm with.
Absolutely.
Sort of making sure to be a wide and easy target and swinging out in front of them if things come to try and deflect with the blade.
Absolutely doable. Your blade, as it cuts through, you see it dissipates a lot of the force. The Bastard Sword's innate anti-magic parrying protection coming heavily into play.
Perfect. I'm making a lot of use of that one.
Indeed.
Sword coming in where possible.
Yep.
And I'm not even remotely trying to save energy with this because the sword will get more effective if I'm tired.
Absolutely. And as you close the distance on him, he brings up his hands and clearly is going for one last desperate move before you're on top of him. You can see that the water beneath your feet, like the ground beneath your feet, starts to flood wildly as he just tries to push you away in like a tide.
All right. I think don't be blown away by the tide. I'm going to try and pull self up onto the saddle and just kind of fling off at him.
Oh, excellent. As you leap towards him, you can see that his hands start to drop, and he brings up to effectively just protect his head and cower. What do you want to do?
I'd like to go for crashing and torso and then slam fist into skull. I'm not trying to kill him, but I don't care if that happens.
Oh, yeah. He is pulped into the ground, and his mouth is bleeding heavily. He is not moving.
Good. Stand up, shake the priest's blood off my fist, and then raise it into the air.
And you hear a few people give, like, battle-hungry cries, and a few voices say, "Oh my goodness, I hope he's all right."
Fair. Leaning into the cry part, and
Yep.
then turning and looking for an added threat.
From here, you can see the pretty substantial effectiveness of your campaign. Most of the enemies are routing, but Saldoon, you see descending the fountain towards Buzz, who is posing currently at the head of the bridge towards him.
You know, sometimes you work with strange people, but can't deny they're effective.
I was next to him.
For the gram.
And as you do so, or as you consider this, Siri, checking in with you, actions that you have.
So last thing that happened to Siri is she saw the word adder in the rain.
Yeah.
She also had previously flung herself to the crowd. Is the crowd still there, or has it sort of dispersed as it's gotten violent?
The crowd is split into two sub-factions, one fighty crowd and one protecty crowd. Protecty crowd is trying to pull injured people away, including injured aggressors. Like, there's a lot of people here who just don't want to see anyone hurt and are clearly panicking and miserable at all the carnage, right? Protecty crowd is helping you out and is trying to get you away from the combat and violence.
Okay, I think if I'm with protected crowd, I'm just first person I see, or first person who looks like they have a brain, like still cognizant, like not just in full panic mode.
Yeah.
Grab onto their shirt, try to pull them down to my level. I'm imagining I'm still more like on my knees.
Yeah.
And go, Adder, Adder, the rain said Adder, what is Adder, Adder? Like just keep
Babbling,
saying
yeah.
Adder to them, because I don't know what Adder means, and I need somebody who does.
And as you do so, you hear, "Shh, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Adder, how did the rain say this to you? Did words appear? Did an image appear?"
It was words, and I point to the general direction where it was. It's just, maybe it's still there, I don't know. I think it was just there for a second.
The older gentleman who you gesture towards shakes his head and says, "Much is happening today that is entirely unprecedented. An adder, as in a serpent, there are no pests or animals that are even permitted in our mighty city."
Rain said Adder, the rain said Adder. It said it would not fall because Adder.
And he frowns and plumbs his brow and says, "Ma'am, I do not know. I do not know." And yet, he looks over and he says, and then he frowns and says, Saldoon has descended the fountain. For the first time since you've started speaking with him, his eyes start to fill with panic as well. The ritual's over. The ritual stopped. Oh my god, the ritual stopped.
That's good.
And
That's good for us. Bad for this man. Good
and
for us.
unfortunately, he starts to rush away, saying, I need to tell them. I need to. And he says, everyone, the ritual stopped. To your families. We need to make plans for what will come next.
What will come next? What will come next?
And he looks over his shoulder and shakes his head. No one knows. Just run. Everything is lost.
Do I have time? Is there I know the geysers are coming out of those grates like crazy.
Yeah.
Can I use my mirror to look into, like, are there snakes in, like, lizards in the grate? Or is it weird that there aren't lizards?
Well, I will say, you haven't even seen a bug while you've been here. That's weirder than anything else.
This guy, that was normal.
Yeah, he seemed to think that was the
There hasn't
norm.
been animals, like, for a while?
Yeah.
And no one's seen a horse or a mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Let's jump back over to Buzz.
Yeah.
Saldoon is descending down to your level. His arms are held aloft, almost like he's readying to give you a hug or something. And his face is relatively calm. He says,
All right.
Young man, violence will get you nowhere in this world.
It's gotten me a lot of places, including right here before you.
He smiles beatifically and says, I don't think that this is a good place to have come. You may...
You, today.
Perhaps. You may apologize and we can perhaps reconcile.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
He smiles, but you see his eyes harden. He says, please forgive me. You're a threat. And you can see that as he says this, the water around you on the bridge, like in the waters beneath the bridge, starts to bubble and roil. Even more so than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do?
I'm going to charge at him and hurl a lightning bolt under his geyser foot.
As you charge, you can see that an arcing, almost like a rainbow shape of water shoots across the bridge, cutting you off from him. You haven't thrown the bolt yet, but you can still see him, albeit like all distorted through the barrier of water that he has created. What do you want to do?
Well, it's still water, and it's still lightning. So I'm going to try to shoot it through the water and see if it can penetrate.
The water arcs down through the bow and into the fountain below you. It arcs all around, and there's a sudden light show within the entire arena, because this water is connected to a lot of metal as well. And metal sparks and rides, and hidden colored pyrotechnics go off accidentally as the lightning hits those as well. Some of the lights in the arena shut off as their electronics are interfered with. However, the barrier that is formed in front of you starts to dissipate. And you can see that Solden, across from you, is looking dazed, as though, even though you can't see how he would be connected to the water itself, you see that he's acting as though he was.
Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up?
I'm going to charge at him and prepare another lightning bolt.
And as he does so, you can see, even though he seems dazed, his mouth opens, and what looks like a little finger of water starts to emerge from his mouth. It gets longer into almost a tendril.
I don't like that.
And the tendril flicks, and you are taken clean across the face by a sudden surge of water that comes far faster than anything you've seen, and it knocks you clean off the bridge. What do you want to do? You're in midair.
Okay, I'm going to try to catch myself with my feathered cloak in air.
You manage to unfurl your feathered cloak, barely enough time to get yourself a little bit of a glide going, and the air is turbulent enough that you can climb if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to climb up. Up above where the air is super turbulent.
Yeah. As you fly up high, Maladrev, you have not seen the entirety of this, but you do see the bit where Buzz is knocked off of the bridge and catches himself flying. You are like at the head of another bridge yourself.
Did I see the unpleasant finger?
You see more than the unpleasant finger. The unpleasant finger is getting much, much larger. In fact, larger than his own body, as it pushes his body up as though his body is the
I
head
guess that's
and the
the
tendril is the tail.
Yeah,
that's
that's exactly what I'm
insane.
thinking.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
My laptop needs charging.
Sure thing.
Bridge between. I'm on a bridge sort of opposite this.
Not opposite, more like at a right angle.
Okay. So faster to get there would be at a diagonal, but there's open space.
Yeah.
Is shield wall off cooldown?
Shield wall is off cooldown.
All right. First off, that's disgusting, and I don't like it. So we're going to try and take that repulsion in there of this viscous, clearly aquatic creature of some kind, and try to lean into that defiant charge against the water while running toward it. I'm just on my own feet now, so no horse stomps here. But I'm going to be going for as hard of footsteps as I can to just not be sounding splash. I'd like to try and get a shield wall that's out in front of me flat instead of upwards.
Oh,
something I
that's
can run
so
across.
sick. Yeah, I see what you're going for there.
And
Yeah.
hopefully giving Buzz something to grab onto for extra solid footing as well.
Absolutely. Buzz, you can see the shield wall appears flat in front of you as a new bridge that Maladrev is running across. It's pretty much below you. You could drop back onto it because you're like, if you wanted to, you could stay in there or you could get back onto the ground. You have the choice as of now.
I'm gonna get on the shield bridge wall.
Landing down onto it, are you going to face back towards the adder?
Yes, and I will also pose dramatically. I just landed.
Yep, naturally. And as you take the pose, the adder with Saldoon's body as its head turns to face you. It flails around like a puppet as its coiling body takes position at the far end of the shield wall, and it gives another lash of its tail. And long, whipping waves go flaring up towards you, but the shield wall's innate rebuffing property breaks them, such that the two of you still have an aisle to get towards him.
What is that thing?
I don't know and I don't care.
Fair enough.
Let's kill it.
Right behind you.
And as the two of you charge, Siri, actions from you.
Got one idea and it's not good. So here's my thought process. First of all, if my magic mirror is still connected to Buzz,
Yes,
I
it
don't
is
know, I don't
actually.
I'm gonna scream into it. It's an adder! It's an adder! It's a snake!
That is going to be the last bit of connection you can get through that before it breaks.
Okay.
Now here's my thinking in my head. One,
Yeah.
I don't want to get anywhere near this thing. It's gonna kill me. Two, I don't know a lot about snakes. I know that they don't like to be stepped on, and I know that birds sometimes eat them. I don't know a lot about water, but I know it can evaporate.
Mm.
But like, make the illusion of a giant fire hawk that maybe would scare a water snake.
I see what you're going for. And this is with a phantasm?
Yes.
All right. Now,
I don't think it will be effective, but I cannot think of another thing to do at this moment.
are you just going to try to be making this above your head? Like, if it's too far away, you probably won't have the juice for it. But, like, where do you want this to appear, and what do you want it to do after it appears?
I'll make it appear above my head, and then I guess I want it to appear as a threat to this, a more powerful threat
Yeah.
than my allies here, so that perhaps its attention will be drawn away from them. So in that case, if I can't make it far away, I'm just going to make it above me and have it kind of like animatronic flap its wings while I run
Yeah.
towards the combat.
I
and
see. So it's
so it will
swooping.
look
Yeah.
as though it's flying, but I need to get closer since I can't make it far away.
Totally. Excellent. I really like that. And what is going to be your paired action for doing the conjure? Are you going to be starting to run as you're doing it? How are you going to... Because this is a decent-sized phantasm, not out of your wheelhouse, but what do you want to be doing to make it happen?
I'm going to grab onto the man who maybe was just about to run away. I'm gonna say, everything's okay. I'm here to save you. And then I'm gonna give him like a wink and a finger gun, and then I'm gonna like stupid little kid flap like a bird. Like toddler flap.
Amazing.
And as the phantasm builds, jumping back over, Buzz, as you make your way towards the adder, I'm going to ask Maladrov as well. What are you going to be doing I'm assuming you're going to make an attack on this thing. How's it going to look?
I'm wielding my oversized, comically large ceremonial thunder hammer, and doing a full battle cry. And I can't do that super loud right now because my daughter's
That's
sleeping.
totally
But,
fine.
You know.
Oh, why are you screaming?
And Maladrov, what are you going to be doing?
So is there water coming in at us or just the snake?
So right now, it was
I know
trying
the
to do
shield's
that.
rebuffing.
Yeah, it was trying to do that. It looks like it might be gearing up for another cast, but it has not done so yet.
Then I'm gonna start sort of, not literally winding it up because it's a sword and not, yo-yo, but holding this up and kind of rolling shoulder, because I got batted around a lot.
Yeah.
Just getting ready for big sweeping strikes to try and knock stuff out of the way.
And as you do so, at this point, it has fully manifested. You can see that Saldoon's body is like its upper jaw, and his arms are its fangs. And other than that, the entire body is just made of arcing, purple-laced water. And as
I think people believe us that there was something nasty going on here.
And as it opens its mouth with its fangs poised towards you, you see it turn and arc two hideous jets of thick, glutinous purple liquid up over your heads.
Oh, that's not great. How high up?
Like ways up.
Is that what
Okay.
a bird is?
Looking over your shoulder, yeah. That's,
Okay.
it
That's
is
a distraction. It works.
It is shooting at the giant firebird that is flying towards the area. The two jets of venom whack through the bird's head, and it is completely unfazed and continues to fly towards. Down below, you see your bird fucking shot through by venom, but it's a freaking illusion, so it does nothing.
I make it look like the fire like moved out of the way and then came
Yeah,
back.
totally.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna be concerned and then see the bird get slightly more concerned and then, oh, okay. And then keep going.
and as you close the distance into melee range, starting with Buzz, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna try to whack it over the head.
This thing is...
Wait, its mouth is open, right?
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna try to whack its uvula. If snakes have those.
So you're like
Just in the throat.
slamming it into the throat.
With
yeah.
lightning.
Yeah.
hammer. Yeah.
And as you sink in, you can see it kind of like bow itself down, and water like pours over you. Maladrov, what are you going to be doing? Because you're entering the strike zone like just afterwards.
All right, I think going for a overhead strike towards the back of the neck area, since it looks like Buzz got it in the mouth.
Absolutely.
Definitely pivoting to not be in Buzz's way.
Another spray of water as you strike, and Buzz. First of all, as the two of you are covered in water, its purple-laced water body burns your skin as it touches it. It feels like you've been immersed in battery acid. But at the same time, you can see that from the blow to its throat, it contracts and distorts its weird face, and Saldoon's body is vomited onto the ground in front of you in a wet pile. And the moment after, its neck is severed cleanly by the blow, and it starts to dissolve down into a wet, throbbing mass, leaving purple trails of goo on the ground as it dissipates into the grate below, down into the water. There's a hissing noise, and Buzz, you now, as the adrenaline is wearing off, you realize how much pain you're in.
Oh man. Where did we land with the life insurance?
Now, Maladrev, you are in even more pain. Buzz's enormous resilience even outstrips yours, but he has a little bit more exposed skin. So the two of, like, your face hurts more, his everything hurts more.
Yep.
Is there water? Can we just jump into the water to wash off?
Yeah, you can jump into the water. You want to do
Yeah,
so?
I'm gonna jump in the water to rinse off.
Yeah, I'd like to not go in the water the snake went in. Put water.
Yeah, the other water, the clean water.
Do you want to jump into a fountain? Like there's a fountain bowl?
Yeah.
Ow, that hurts!
The goo feels like it's trying to cling to your skin as you're clawing it off. And at this point, Siri comes rushing up to the group. The bird is... Do you want to keep the bird or do you want to dissipate the bird?
I'm gonna turn the bird to a smaller bird.
Yeah.
Then I'm concerned that the snake's not dead. That's like my number one concern right now. Is that he just like turned into goo and then he's gonna turn back into a snake in like a couple minutes.
But as you ponder, you feel something. And the other two feel it a moment thereafter. You feel a gentle pulse from your Enclave badge.
Oh.
That's
Tap, tap.
reassuring.
And Buzz taps at it, and Siri can see Buzz's body start to vanish into teleportation.
Oh, okay. We did it.
Did the rain stop ever?
Wait, hold on. Do I have to teleport right now?
Oh, you do not have to.
I have to pose before I leave all these people.
Thank you.
You know, I gotta like
Prerogatives.
share my story.
As you wave
Good
around,
people. We have saved you. And then I tap.
now the rain has stopped. But there are clouds still. Heavy. Buzz starts to teleport away. And you can see that the throngs of people, now no longer distinguishable between allies and enemies, everyone's just evacuating, dragging anyone who's hurt, just trying to clear the area around here. You can hear the ground hissing where the snake's purple blood touched it.
Oh,
Mouse limps over to you.
This is definitely gonna be... That's a mid cooldown, so I'm definitely pushing extra energy at this. But could I activate Garthinks?
Yes.
Alright. Go.
everybody! Be calm if you can. The thing that was attempting to taint you all has been defeated. There's a young boy in the waterworks. His efforts were tantamount to this victory.
I promised, Robbie.
Someone go pull him from there. Give him a hero's welcome. The rain will return.
I don't know that, but I get the vibe.
And Siri, do you have any final actions?
Siri's gonna look up at the clouds and just kind of whisper, "We're gonna come back, right?"
Drip, drip. A few small drops that, for a fleeting fraction of a moment, spell out a word. Soon.
And with that, I take out my fan, pull myself off for a minute, and then I'll teleport away as well.
And on that note, we will end the mission. Forgive me, we went about half an hour over.
That
I was
was
having a lot of fun.
I'm impressed by your ability to keep these time they are.
Yes. I
was still
Timing is hard.
shocked. Yeah.
Especially with
gosh.
me going all in that one
No,
part.
that's just how it goes. Are you guys up for doing a brief breakdown, or would you like to wrap on that?
Oh, I'm good.
Can.
Yeah, I can do a quick one.
Totally. First of all, do you have any questions about specific calls made or actions that happened on the mission?
Is the snake alive?
Well, I don't know if I want to tell you. Let me think.
Damn.
That's exactly what I was. That snake's not dead. There's no way.
Okay,
Snake in
okay,
water?
It's a
okay.
sketchy snake.
I will give you this answer. The snake is dead. Its blood is not.
Ah, great.
What was the higher power that wrote those words?
Yeah, I think that what I wanted to do with that is to have the weather be the higher power. Like, it's not like a person, it's like a natural phenomenon that was so deeply integrated in this society, it was like taking on elements of them, you know what I mean? I thought that the writing in the air thing could be like a cool thing that both Buzz and Siri could interact with, even though Siri ended up being the one to mostly interact with it. Because like when I'm designing stuff, I like to make it so like a given design point is something that like ideally at least 2 characters can interface with in some way. And so like the crowd, I knew that Siri would make great use of that, and I knew that Maladrov would absolutely kill it with him, and he did. So like that's kind of the way I try to approach things. Do you guys have any other questions or calls you want to go over?
I have questions like about. I don't know if this is a question that you're going to be able to answer. I don't want to like
that's fine.
anything, but like how long was that? Like he can't have always been the snake.
Yeah. I like to leave that a little bit ambiguous, but I think I can say that the possession, for want of a better term, was recent enough that it was he might not have even known himself. I wanted to keep that a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
You know, we probably should have checked if he was alive at the end.
No, yeah.
We just kind of were like,
I think we're lucky that we got away with like only 2 confirmed kills and then like a bunch of definite casualties.
Yeah.
Not casualties, injuries. There's one guy who I think is dead because he was dropped out of a bubble.
Yeah. So a couple things I really wanted to go over. Yiyi, that combat was sick. Nice job.
Fun.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that your power slide in midair was my high point. Because, like, having hosted a couple demos for Thunderbirds, once you start to, like, figure out the movement options, it's so cool to watch. And, like, I love hosting for Thunderbirds who start to, like, get a grasp of, like, how to move, you know what I mean? So that was...
It's kind of like Captain Falcon.
Yeah, exactly. Captain Falcon's actually like almost a Thunderbird, but with fire skinning instead of thunder. So that was awesome. And also, Maggie May, nicely frickin' done with that energy work. Honestly, like, seriously, Mary, that was really, really nicely done. And doing it in inversion, like there's a lot of different ways you can do an energy work, and inversions tend to be some of the harder ones. Like, Kylie, I don't know if you can confirm or deny this, but like I'd say inversions are typically quite hard, and that was like a really well done inversion. And that kind of like factors the fact that both of you two like blended your attention grabbing efforts with your other actions, like with the fake seizure. That was such a good freaking idea. And like the turbulence thing interfered with the water manipulation. There's just a really, really smart setup. So both of you did a really great job with that. I mean, Kylie, I could talk a lot about what you were doing, but like you know, Kylie, tell us a little bit about your thought process behind certain things, especially because you haven't played this class before, nor have you played like this exact rule set before.
Yeah. So my initial part with the bit where I went with the kid was the thought of getting people who could distract the crowd, or distract that. Like, I was planning to like get them to like throw stuff, or maybe just anything to get the group away through. And I was like, well, this isn't gonna work, but I probably can get this kid to do something, because in general I found that completely bailing is usually just not ideal. So kind of floundered a little bit there, but beyond that, it was not in. I think it took when I saw the crowd standing up to defend Siri, I was much more willing to literally arm the group of seemingly random civilians who I thought would otherwise just die if I did this.
Yeah.
I was a little hesitant, then I'm like, oh, these guys got balls, we're good. Cool.
Absolutely. And it was really smart of you to wait to see those dynamics established, because you can imagine if you had led with that would have gone nowhere.
Yeah, just like, hi guys, let's fight. What?
Yeah, so it was a really good setup payoff. And that is something I noticed a lot with this mission. You all did really good setup payoff. And for classes like the Thunderbird, that's like especially important, but a lot of classes care about it, you know what I mean? Any other stuff that you guys want to go over? Thoughts that you had, or things that you wanted to like discuss or learn more about? I'm more than happy to open the table, and if not, we'll wrap it up.
I actually have to go because I have another game starting in like 5 minutes.
That's
I have
perfectly
to pee.
fine.
But I have a lot of questions about the system, so I'm gonna ping you later, Robbie.
Of course, I would love to talk about it.
Are you in the server?
I am not. I don't think. No, I'll join it later.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Yiyi. It's
Yeah,
been
it
a
was so nice to
pleasure.
meet you guys.
Thank
so
you,
nice to
Robbie.
play. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was very fun.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Nice to
meet you
Mary, Rick,
guys.
Kylie, it was great to host for you all. Thank you so much for taking the time. After
Thank
Yiyi
you,
bounces, if either of you two want to stick around the call and break down anything, I'm more than happy to, but no
I'll
pressure
see you
either
guys
way.
later. Bye.
See you later, my friend.
Bye, have fun.
So is there anything
Did
you
you
want
have
to go?
fun?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's a big one. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, what do you think?
Or
Yeah.
Robbie.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
I had fun.
I'm both of you.
I mean, I had an absolute blast.
Excellent.
This was amazing.
Sick.
This was all I was thinking about was growing up. I, with my closest older brother Ed, would play make believe exactly like this. Like we
Yep.
didn't have dice or strict rules that we were following. It was just us talking out what we wanted to do, and then like playing like anime soundtracks in the background while we had our stuffed animals like fight each other, and it made me feel like that. It was like, wow, I can just do things, and it's great. I had such a fun time. It was like, absolutely amazing.
That's
Excellent.
fantastic. Yeah, I would say
Playing pretend is important.
it really is, and I find that a
Sounds
good way
good.
of describing Enclave is it's structured play pretend with adult themes, like brutalizing people.
Yeah. Enclave is definitely a lot more than we did when playing pretend as kids.
Yeah.
But it's good. That was my initial take with the legacy version when I first joined too, because way back, like, that was like, I don't want to think about time, so I'm not going to think about that more. But it's just that there's these silly, like, games I would play with my siblings and friends where you would throw an option at the other one, and then have them, like, pick from your hand and present and be like, all right, here's the things that will happen. Choose a number, basically. And it gives me similar sort of just free flow feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I didn't know about that game, Kylie. That's awesome.
Oh, it was very silly.
Yeah.
We mostly made it for playing in car rides, you know, so there was no, like, miming or anything like that, but
Perfect car ride thing. Yeah.
it
So
worked.
now that you've played, do you have any other thoughts about it, Mary?
Definitely want more. First thought is definitely more. I definitely, if I were to play this again, I would want to stick with my one class for a while and figure out all of like the different ways I could make things work. Like one thing that I didn't get to ask about that I really wanted to try, and then I was like, this is just too convoluted and it wouldn't work, is doing
And that's never true.
Well, I thought it would be really interesting to do viewpoint in reverse. Like I was thinking about if the water creature doesn't have eyes, its eyes are technically always closed, and then if I cast it in reverse, it would look through my eyes and then not be able to attack anyone because it wasn't able to see people. But also
like,
maybe
"Ugh."
it doesn't have eyes because it doesn't need eyes. I was just like,
Those
okay,
are
that's-
options.
and
It's
then I
a
thought giant
sick
bird.
idea. Like that is so creative.
I think in general, if you want to try to reverse viewpoint, your mirror is probably a really cool thing to do with that with. Like,
Oh,
look at your
yeah.
own reflection and use that to try and, like, send it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be really interesting too.
Kylie, you're so smart. Like
Playing with mirrors is fun, and that's a
Yeah.
super cool idea. I'm like, yeah, you could definitely do that. You'd be like,
mirrors are secretly an amazing energy work tool.
it's true.
Just like bring them into a paired action, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Also, they're just really useful for the mundane effect of looking down the grate. Like, yes,
Yeah.
normal mirrors are just
Really
super
smart uses of that. That was fantastic. Yeah. And do you see what I mean about the illusionist really caring about energy work? Like, yeah. Like the other two, Kylie did some energy work because Kylie's very, very good and brings
I've
those
played
things
it
in
a lot.
naturally. Yeah. But you could totally see ways that Athena Thunderbird would not have to energy work a damn thing and can do all sorts of stuff. The illusionists can also do that, but they get even more benefit out of just getting a little bit more flexibility out of their casts.
They're a real open book. There's a lot they can do there.
Totally.
Well, I like Siri. I like her.
Yeah, she's
I
fun.
I enjoyed her being like,
ah! That's always what happens is I come up with a character and then as soon as I start playing them, I'm like, okay, this is just not what we're just rolling with it.
we're just gonna roll with it, yeah.
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 Well, the thing I really liked is that it felt like her traits were there, especially the luck kind of carefree element, because she was goofy, but also like kind of heartfelt. You know what I mean? And
I really liked when she looked up at the rain and was like, what would stop you?
yeah, exactly. That was
very good.
so awesome, and I was hoping someone would do that. So it was just absolutely perfect. And
Talk
I mean,
to me, Sky.
And Kylie, you've always been a really good social player who also does great combat. So like the Thane lends itself really well to your playstyle.
I like the thing.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
way that you like, I knew that you'd interface really well with two arms, but like that was effortless. That was really
Two arms
nicely
is
done.
fun.
Yeah.
My main thing was like, I'm gonna just keep saying things loudly and confidently, and hopefully crowd mentality will mean we ignore the person who's arguing.
Yeah. Well, also the use of shield wall for like area control shit is so good. That's
Wall's fun.
that ability is, I would say, the best energy work like platform on the Thane because you can do so much
Probably
cool
true.
shit with it.
Yeah. That's very fun. I liked making a platform to run on.
Yeah, that's
Ah.
sick.
The fun, like, obviously it requires the energy worker, you just fall through, and that's the other hilarious option. It's like, whoops.
Bye bye. Well, that's the great thing because you prefaced it with that like you had done the jump off of your horse and then you had done the
Yeah.
landing, and so you were already kind of like in a situation that kind of lent itself to that sort of energy work. So it's just again good setup payoff.
Is the horse part of that class?
It's a piece of gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took the horse instead of I could take a banner or something like that, but I took a horse.
Absolutely
I
the
like-
right move.
Horses.
Yeah.
They're fun, and
you do a lot of mount stuff on other classes in Legacy.
I like mounts. They're
Yeah.
fun, and Robbie plays very entertaining horses.
I love playing horses so much.
It was important to showcase. So I think the main thing about Enclave that makes it fun, and it seems like you picked this up and played with it really well, is that the most important thing is that everything is like cool. You know?
Yeah.
It's not just like rule of cool wins over logic. It's the narrative and the flow of it is most important. And if you're buying into stuff, it'll usually work
Yeah,
out.
make
Not always
the-
in your favor, but it will always be cool.
Exactly. Make the logic cool. Like
Yeah,
that's,
that too.
That's the perfect blend. Like obviously, does it kind of bend belief to have like your horse be as sentient as it is? Obviously, but I prefaced it by saying that your gear is like supernaturally
Yeah.
better than a lot of stuff. So yeah, your horse is supernaturally better than a normal horse. He can do weird stuff and be fun.
Can't believe he arrested someone.
Yeah.
It was very tangled.
Yes.
True.
Maximilian is my favorite. That's not true. One's my favorite, but I love the horse.
Yep.
Like something I thought, like it didn't come back up, but I was interested in like the rust aspect.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was gonna end up being the thing that was
like
causing
damaging it.
Yeah, of it's like maybe nobody thought about the infrastructure, but that was something that I definitely like if we happened to go back to that same world would want to check out to make sure
On
like
the rust. It's like,
Yeah.
is your world falling apart? Because I
Yeah.
get the sensation it is.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up. I normally
Feels
like
like
to be kind of hush-hush with my plot elements, but you didn't get to see what the purple stuff did to metal.
oh,
I get the sense that there was like, so you know they had weather the weather was basically a god, right?
Yeah.
It feels like this rust could over time have built up to become the snake
Yeah.
or the blood or its own kind of like
Oh, interesting.
devilish figure.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Great. Great, the rust god. Those are always friendly.
Yeah. I've never met a rust god I didn't get along with.
Oh,
So
put that on your resume.
yeah, I already have. So
Oh, good, good.
are there any other
That
stuff
explains
that
why the Kickstarter did so well.
That's God looking out.
Let's go. So are there any other topics we want to go over briefly, or are we feeling good?
Feeling good. I mean, I got a lot of energy now, so I gotta
Sick.
figure out how
Yeah.
to cool it down. But
It's always buzzing
Apologies.
afterwards, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I was up doing demos till 2 yesterday.
Oh, joy.
Wow.
Yeah, I was at a game store and we had this sick demo going. It was so freaking fun. But honestly, like,
Awesome.
that is a demo. This is a mission, right? This is the structure and the pacing and being able to see the whole thing through without feeling like, oh, I got to make sure I can like give people pausing places if they want to bail on the demo. It's so much fun. Like hosting missions is adrenaline city, and it always feels good. All right then, my friends. I think we're gonna sign off. Oh yeah.
Are you in the server?
I'm not. I would like to be.
Oh yeah. I'll shoot
let's
you the
make sure to
Discord
drop
server.
the link, because I think that's where people are going to be like planning missions and such.
Absolutely.
I'll
And
try again.
you, all of you watching right now, can join the Discord server linked in the description down below. Ooh, segue.
Ah,
Very good call, Kylie. And
natural marketing.
yeah, I know. I'm so good at this.
Perfect.
But I think that's where we'll call it conclusion. If you two want to do your sign-offs, then fire away, and then I'll wrap us up.
Oh, I did not prepare one of these. Bye.
Perfect. Thank you both so much for playing. Huge shout-outs to Yiyi for joining us as well.
Yes.
All three of you did fantastically, and I'm really glad we could set this up. But until we meet again, my friends, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.